Chapter 7:16. Establishing the Heavenly Court. Investiture of the Emperors. I will be the Emperor of Heaven. Qin Shujian became calmer as he thought of this. Establishing the Heavenly Court. This was just the first step. There were many more things to do after that. There is a problem with the investiture of the emperors, which is the creation of the investiture of the gods. Qin Shujian thought of an important matter. That was, the investiture of the gods. The investiture of the emperors was not just a verbal investiture. There must be a treasure to carry it in order to complete the investiture of the gods. When the heavenly court collapsed in the Third Era, the investiture of the gods was also gone. It was a treasure that was naturally nurtured by heaven and earth. Even Zhu Bing could not compare to it now. But I don't know which era it is now. The investiture of the gods of the Third Era is out of the question. It seems that I can only use my own methods to create the investiture of the gods. Qin Shujian shook his head secretly. In the end, he could only think of a way to create the investiture of the gods himself. But to create such a treasure, it was not an easy task. Fortunately, after obtaining the memories of the Third Era, his own forging methods had reached a very terrifying level. Now that I have developed my inner world, it is impossible to use the origin of heaven and earth here to improve myself. Qin Shujian's finger placed on the stone table subconsciously tapped gently. The so-called origin of heaven and earth. It was the existence of the source of life. Any living creature carried the origin of heaven and earth. After killing a living creature, one could plunder the origin of heaven and earth from the other party and turn it into one's own power. The original attribute panel. This was the principle. Killing a living creature could plunder the origin of heaven and earth. But the difference was, living creatures of the same world could not obtain the origin of heaven and earth if they killed each other. Only living creatures of different worlds could obtain the origin of heaven and earth from each other and improve themselves. There are 4-player worlds in the 4 continents. Although the 4-player worlds are different worlds, they are essentially the same to a certain extent. Therefore, there is no way for players to level up by killing each other. On the contrary, the boundless world was different from the player's world. Therefore, players could obtain experience points by killing creatures in the boundless world. The so-called experience points were also a kind of origin of the world. However, at the same time, killing players in the Great Thousand Worlds could also plunder the heaven and earth origins. Therefore, they could also increase their strength. However, the origin on players was very little to begin with. Moreover, the lower the level of the player, the less origin they have. Therefore, there is a level limit for the creatures of the boundless world to kill players. Qin Shujian thought of many things. There was something. He might have known about it long ago, or he might have just found out. However, there were simply too many memories contained within the endless years. Therefore, Qin Shujian needed to sort it out bit by bit through some sort of connection. However, regardless of whether it's the players or the living beings of the great wide world, although they can plunder the origin of the heavens and the earth, there's no way for them to actively use it. In other words, the players have a certain degree of autonomy, but they're not too powerful. The reason why I can fully control the world's quintessence is because of the means left behind by the Third Era. Experts who surpass the true immortal realm are able to leave behind trump cards even at the end of an era. However, the world's quintessence is not omnipotent. If it's used in the world, it's naturally limited by the world. If I keep using the world's quintessence to improve myself, I'll stop at the 9th level of the true immortal realm, and there'll be no possibility for me to improve. Therefore, the evolution of my inner world has raised my life level to the same level as that of the great wide world. Although I don't have the ability to use the world's quintessence, the path ahead has been opened. There were gains and losses. In Qin Shujian's opinion, it wasn't difficult to make a choice between the two sides. As for why he didn't use the world's quintessence now, it was also because his life level was already the same as that of the great wide world. A weak quintessence that was born in a great wide world. How could it increase the strength of a great wide world of the same level? Unless he could devour the core quintessence of the great wide world. However, It was very difficult to do that. The great wide world is equivalent to an expert with a Tao fruit. Only an expert with a Tao fruit can devour a Tao fruit. Qin Shujian immediately dismissed the thought that had just arisen in his mind. The great wide world. How could it be devoured so easily? Immediately after, he took out the heavenly list from his sea of consciousness. After a few years, the human race's destiny had gathered. This eight-sealed Tao artifact had grown to a very powerful level, and its spirituality had also increased greatly in a short period of time. Although it didn't have spiritual intelligence like the God Slayer, it wasn't far off. Qin Shujian was basically certain. In another 8 to 10 years, the heavenly list should have a great transformation. The 10,000 tribes battlefield. Retracting his gaze from the heavenly list, Qin Shujian looked outside the Qian Yuan realm. Two beams of light. It was as if they had crossed the barrier of time and space and landed directly on the 10,000 tribes battlefield. The 10,000 tribes battlefield is already a perfect embryo. In the past few years, more than hundreds of millions of cultivators have died there. Under the nourishment of the blood of living beings, it has already completed a transformation. If I were to refine the God role, the 10,000 tribes battlefield would be a good choice. Qin Shujian naturally knew what level the divine weapon that he had personally refined had reached. The 10,000 tribes battlefield. When he was forging it, he had the idea of taking this opportunity to nurture a supreme divine weapon. The current 10,000 tribes battlefield could be both a divine weapon and an embryo. Since the meeting of the 10,000 tribes, there were no more wars in the 10,000 tribes battlefield. The original reason for the war was that the various tribes were competing for the general trend of heaven and earth. But now, Qin Shujian wanted to establish the heavenly court and unify the 10,000 tribes. In this way, there was no need to compete for the general trend of heaven and earth again. No longer competing for the general trend of heaven and earth. Now, the human race was the ruler. Naturally, the killing of the various tribes would no longer exist. Then, Qin Shujian retracted his attention from the heavenly list. With a thought, the human race's destiny immediately flew out. In an instant, the vast destiny appeared in front of everyone. Qin Shujian's silhouette appeared in the sky above the providence. Most of the humans in the eastern continent raised their heads at this moment, and looked at the vast destiny above their heads. Then, under everyone's horrified gazes, Qin Shujian's illusory figure suddenly collapsed. From today onwards, Qin Shujian of the human race is no longer the human emperor. As soon as he finished speaking, another human's destiny shook. That was the destiny of the human race that belonged to the great Zhao dynasty. After Qin Shujian gave up the position of the human emperor, the destiny of the cultivation world immediately gathered towards the destiny of the great Zhao dynasty. Then, Emperor Zhao's shadow stepped out in the air without any expression on his face. Okay. At this point, the destiny of the human race was unified again. After losing the destiny of the human race, the heavenly list became an ordinary 8-sealed Tao artifact. The cultivators who were originally on the heavenly ranking also realized that the aura on their bodies had dropped. The blessing from the unseen fate had already completely disappeared. Regarding this, many people were shocked, but some people maintained their composure. The news of the establishment of the heavenly court was no longer a secret. At this moment, Qin Shujian suddenly gave up the position of the human emperor. These people could vaguely guess some things in their hearts. Emperor Qin has given up the position of the human emperor. Qin Yuanbai's expression was a little emotional. Although the other party was no longer the human emperor, he still called him Emperor Qin. Since the conference of the 10,000 races, there were no wars in the human race's territory. Qin Yuanbai sat here and felt that he had nothing to do. Yin Banqing said, Emperor Qin has given up the position of the human emperor. It should be in preparation to establish the heavenly court and become the emperor of heaven. I'm afraid that the current myriad race battlefield will not last long. If the various races did not fight, there was not much meaning for the existence of the myriad race battlefield. Regarding this, Yin Banqing also felt that his tensed heart suddenly relaxed. The myriad race battlefield was established. Up until now, only a few years had passed. However, he had already grown from the first level of the celestial being to the third level of the celestial being. As long as he found some more opportunities, he could directly break through to the fourth level of the celestial being. It was simply unimaginable for Yin Banqing to break through two small realms in just a few years. If it was in the past, it would take at least a few hundred years to break through from the first level of the celestial being to the third level of the celestial being. Now, the time spent was more than 100 times shorter. It could be done to this extent. Of course, it was due to the general trend of heaven and earth. But in fact, the biggest reason was still because he often fought with existences of the same level in the myriad race battlefield and gained a lot of insights from it. It was not just Yin Banqing. Since the opening of the myriad race battlefield, the human race who entered here, as long as they did not die, had their realms improved rapidly. In addition, their combat experience had also become very rich. It could be said that, now the Qianyuan sacred ground had a lot more experts than before. The original thousands of people in the divine martial arts realm had evolved to more than 100,000 now. As for the celestial being, it had also increased by more than several times. The changes that the myriad race battlefield had brought to the human race were not ordinary. If it was possible, Yin Banqing also did not want the myriad race battlefield to withdraw from the stage so soon. But the problem was, judging from the current situation, the withdrawal of the myriad race battlefield was already 100% certain. All of a sudden, there was one more person in the city lord's mansion. The voices of several people suddenly stopped talking and then hurriedly got up. "Greetings, Emperor Qin!" "No need for formalities." Qin Shijian waved his hand. Seeing this, Qin Yuanbai tactfully gave up the main seat. "Emperor Qin, please take a seat." "Okay." Qin Shijian nodded slightly, and then sat down in the main seat. As for Qin Yuanbai, he casually found a seat to sit down. At this moment, in the city lord's mansion, many people's expressions became strange. If they remembered correctly, the emperors had made a rule oath. Powerful figures could not enter the myriad race battlefield. Emperors could not enter the myriad race battlefield. True immortals could not enter the myriad race battlefield. It could be said that the three rules had blocked all experts above the 7th level of the celestial being realm outside the myriad race battlefield. If anyone dared to appear here without permission, there would be a rule thunder tribulation descending. But now, Qin Shijian openly entered the city lord's mansion, which was why they felt so strange. After all, even if he gave up the position of the human emperor, he was still a true immortal expert. Even if he did not become an immortal, he must be a powerful expert. It was impossible. Qin Shijian had not broken through to the realm of a powerful expert yet. However, yet, the other party had really appeared. Qin Shijian did not explain too much to everyone's doubts. Strictly speaking, it was a loophole in the rule oath. Because the new system that he took was not considered a true immortal at all. As for Xiao Qingfeng and the others who took the path of physical sanctification, they were considered true immortals. Although it was a new system for this era. But the problem was, after the other party succeeded in transcending the tribulation, heaven and earth would congratulate him. In that case, cultivators who took the path of physical sanctification were the same as true immortals. Only Qin Shijian himself took the path of deriding heaven and earth, which was completely beyond the scope of the great, wide world. Naturally, there were not so many restrictions. These things, Qin Shijian did not want to explain too much. He looked at Qin Yuanbai and the others and said, "From now on, all humans will leave the myriad race battlefield. Take away all that you can within 3 days. If you can't, stay here. However, you all need to understand that it won't be long before the 10,000 races battlefield completely disappears. Anything left here will disappear along with the battlefield." Indeed. Hearing this, everyone secretly said in their hearts. It was just as they had guessed. The myriad race battlefield was about to leave the stage of heaven and earth. Although they had already guessed it, Qin Yuanbai and the others were still not used to receiving this news all of a sudden. However, they were not used to it. Since Qin Shujian had already spoken, they were not in a position to refuse. Qin Yuanbai nodded. I'll spread the news. All humans will leave the myriad race battlefield within 3 days. Do it as soon as possible, Qin Shujian said, and in the next moment, he disappeared on the spot. Outside, Qin Shujian's shadow appeared and occupied most of the sky of the myriad race battlefield. The cultivators of the various races could not help but look up at the shadow in the sky. From now on, all the shadows of the various races will leave the myriad race battlefield within 3 days. Anyone who doesn't leave within 3 days will die. His voice was loud. It spread throughout the entire myriad race battlefield. After saying that, Qin Shujian put away the shadow, took a step forward, and left the myriad race battlefield. At this moment, after receiving the news, the various races looked at each other. We're leaving the myriad race battlefield? Who knows if the human race will take advantage of this opportunity to attack and occupy all the territories if we retreat. That's right. This is a serious matter. We must let my emperor make the decision. One by one, the various races sent the news back to their respective clans, leaving the myriad race battlefield. This was not a small matter. If this was a conspiracy of the humans, they would fall right into their trap if they left. Because of this, not many people were confused as to why Qin Shujian could enter the myriad race battlefield. However, there were also some people who had doubts. However, although they were confused, they could not make any difference. Soon, the various races of the 4 continents received the news. The monster emperor crushed the communication jade token and said coldly, "Send a message to all the monsters in the myriad race battlefield to return to the territory of the monster race immediately." Yes. Immediately, some elders left. The remaining elders all had different expressions on their faces. Tianyu said in a deep voice, "If we leave the myriad race battlefield now and the humans take this opportunity to occupy the territories of the monster race, according to the rules, we can only give them the power of heaven and earth. Retreating just like that. In his opinion, it was too risky." The monster emperor shook his head. The goal of the humans is to establish heaven and earth. So what if they occupy the territories of the monster race? Besides, although the humans are powerful now, they do not dare to go too far. Otherwise, no one will benefit from a life and death struggle. The monster emperor did not know. Why was Qin Shujian able to enter the myriad race battlefield, and why did he order the myriad race to leave? However, he was sure of one thing. The other party's goal. It was definitely not just to occupy the territories of the various races. It seems that when Emperor Qin made the rules, he was already prepared. Otherwise, he would have been able to enter the myriad race battlefield through the loophole of the rules. What the monster emperor really cared about was the fact that the other party appeared in the myriad race battlefield. The rules were bound by the rules. It had always been unsolvable. However, he did not understand what method Qin Shujian used to enter the myriad race battlefield. It was a loophole of the rules, or a method to shield the rules of thunder. If it was the former, the monster emperor thought for a while and did not find any loopholes in the original rules. If it was like this, the most likely possibility was that the other party had a method to shield the rules of thunder. Thinking of this, the pressure in the monster emperor's heart increased. The more Qin Shujian had means, the more he understood his powerlessness. Ben Wang is about to go into seclusion to break through to the true immortal realm. If he does not come out in 3 months, go and wake Ben Wang up, the monster emperor said slowly. Hearing this, the elders of the monster race bowed and accepted the order. Then, the monster emperor waved his hand and asked all the elders to leave. There were not many places in the monster race that were suitable for the emperor to cultivate in seclusion. The dragon transformation pool in the hands of the dragons was a good choice. After expelling the dragons, The monster emperor specially left the dragon transformation pool behind. After all, how could he allow the Flood Dragon clan to take away such a supreme treasure from the ancient times? However, when the monster emperor really used the dragon transformation pool, he realized that the dragon transformation pool had already become an empty shell. It did not match the legendary supreme treasure at all. Besides that, the only Zhu Bing heavenly demon temple had also been shattered. Although the monster emperor had asked many monster clans to take action and search for the fragments of the heavenly demon temple, but Zhu Bing had been shattered. All the mystical powers had disappeared. They were scattered on the ground, no different from ordinary stones. Even if they were found, it would be useless. It could be said that the monster race's assets had all been squandered by the previous monster emperor. The hall they were in now was still the original hall of the Golden Rock clan. It could be considered a treasure that had the effect of gathering spirit energy. So, if the monster emperor wanted to go into seclusion, he could only do it here. I've been a half-immortal for a long time. I'm walking the path of the Golden Rock Emperor's rules. Compared to the monster emperor's rules, it's a little inferior. It's just that it's impossible to change paths halfway. The previous monster emperor had fallen. The monster emperor's rules that he had originally occupied had naturally become ownerless. But he was walking the path of the Golden Rock Emperor's rules. If he abandoned his own rules and walked the path of the monster emperor's rules, he would definitely not be able to retain his half-immortal realm, and would directly fall to the 4th level of the celestial being realm. To this, the monster emperor could not accept it at all. Therefore, he could only walk this path to the end. When Ben Huang reaches the level of the ancient emperors, even the Golden Rock Emperor's rules will be stronger than the monster emperor's. 3 days later, the various clans withdrew from the 10,000 race battlefield. The emperors had no room to resist Qin Shijian's orders, unless they were already prepared to perish together with the human race. Or else, they could only take it one step at a time. In the sky above the Nanming Fire Territory, the Array Formation retreated. A continent that was tens of millions of miles in size loomed over the void, shrouding the land below in darkness. It was covered by the Array Formation. The 10,000 race battlefield that had disappeared for a few years once again appeared in the sight of all living beings. Qin Shijian stood in the void. He looked at the 10,000 race battlefield in front of him. Suddenly, his power surged and pushed the power of the Nanming Fire Territory to the extreme. In an instant, in the Nanming Fire Territory, there was a raging flame soaring into the sky. It burned the void into a sea of fire. The soaring flame. It caused the surrounding temperature to rise sharply. The Nanming Fire Territory originally thought that it had been severely exhausted, and its power had weakened a lot. Now, after being pushed by Qin Shijian's power, it immediately recovered to its previous peak. That terrifying temperature. It burned the space into nothingness. Fire riding art, go! Qin Shijian made a seal with both hands. The fire spirit power between heaven and earth gathered and then merged into the Nanming Fire Territory. This was a method of the Third Era. At that time, he was heaven and earth, and he was familiar with all the methods in the world. Fire riding art. It was one of the good methods. Although the name was ordinary, it could control all the fire in heaven and earth. The innate divine fire of the Vermilion Bird clan and the true sun fire could be controlled by the fire riding art. Immediately, the power of the Nanming Fire Territory became stronger. The flames that soared into the sky seemed to have turned into a huge fire lotus, occupying tens of millions of miles of the sky and enveloping the entire battlefield. Rumble! There was a rumbling sound between heaven and earth. The temperature of the entire south continent had risen sharply at this moment. Fortunately, the spiritual energy in the south continent was rich. Even the ordinary flowers and plants had a lot of spiritual energy in them, so they could withstand the increased temperature. As for the things close to the Nanming Fire Territory, they were not so lucky. A large number of cultivators fled. They did not dare to get close to the Nanming Fire Territory. At this moment, Qin Shujian controlled the flame, enveloping the entire battlefield. The temperature was enough to incinerate the void. Everything in the 10,000 tribes' battlefield was gradually burned to ashes. The rivers dried up. The mountains and the earth cracked. All the trees and flowers withered and turned into ashes. After a few breaths, the mountains dissipated. The earth disappeared completely. This caused the 10,000 races' battlefield to reveal its original appearance. A huge black iron piece that was tens of millions of miles in size appeared in the flaming lotus. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from the metal piece, almost forcefully suppressing the fire lotus. A tyrannical intent. It appeared from the battlefield. Qin Shujian sneered when he saw this. So you've already gained sentience. You've hidden yourself well. After absorbing the blood of the 10,000 races, the 10,000 tribe battlefield gave birth to its own intelligence. However, the other party had been hiding and did not reveal any clues. There was no doubt. The purpose of the 10,000 tribe battlefield was to conceal itself and secretly accumulate enough strength. When he felt that the time was right, it would naturally be revealed. Unfortunately, even if you have gained sentience, so what? The time is too short after all. If you had hundreds or thousands of years, it would be a tricky problem. Qin Shujian struck out a palm print, directly bombarding the battlefield. Boom! The battlefield trembled violently. The sentience that was born let out a shrill scream and weakened a lot. Without the suppression of sentience, the flaming lotus suddenly became stronger. Qin Shujian stood silently in the void with his hands behind his back, watching the flaming lotus forge the battlefield. He had no intention of interfering for the time being, because it was just the beginning to forge the god role. Only by melting the battlefield could he enter the next step. As for the sentience that was born in it, Qin Shujian had no intention of keeping it. Because of that sentience, it was born from the blood of the 10,000 races in the world. Not only was it brutal, but it was also extremely chaotic. Even if he recognized the battlefield as its master, it would not be easy to control it. He could not use it for himself. Naturally, it was best to destroy it. At this moment, the sentience that was born in the battlefield had been severely injured by Qin Shujian's palm just now. It could no longer resist the burning of the flames. Under the power of the Nanming fire territory, other than a series of shrill screams, there was no other movement. As time went by, the miserable screams gradually died down. Half a month passed. The battlefield had changed from the original black iron piece to a red color. At this moment, the sentience that existed in it had already dissipated. Right now, the 10,000 tribe battlefield was an extremely pure embryo. Another 10 days passed. Qin Shujian performed lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Then, he gathered power in his hands and a substantial sledgehammer appeared in his hands. Next, he swung the sledgehammer and smashed it heavily on the iron piece. Bang! A heavy buzzing sound resounded throughout the world. The entire iron piece shook violently. The original size of tens of millions of miles seemed to have become smaller. Qin Shujian's expression did not change. He recalled the memories of the third era in his mind. Then, he swung the sledgehammer and forged. In the inner world, the forging rule also shook. Then, it grew at a rapid speed. As the forging rule grew, the power of the mother stream also became stronger. Rumble! The inner world shook and a new area was born again. As for the changes in his body, Qin Shujian did not care at all. Right now, he was completely immersed in the forging process. Forging a rule. It was also a very mysterious method. In the third era, there was someone who used forging as a foundation and was only one step away from the Tao fruit realm. When he was the Emperor of Heaven, Qin Shujian had also consulted him before. Therefore, although his forging method had not reached the peak, it was definitely much more powerful than before. As the forging deepened, many familiar feelings surged in his heart. Gradually, Qin Shujian became even more adept at it. Heaven and earth buzzed. Thousands of rays of light appeared. Vaguely, a long river of laws appeared. However, because Qin Shujian had already opened up his inner world, the forging rule of the vast thousand world did not directly appear on his body. It was only mighty in the sky. Rumble! Qin Shujian forged the 10,000 tribe battlefield. Therefore, there was naturally no need to explain the commotion. At this moment, the experts of the various races all looked at the South Continent. They also wanted to know what Qin Shujian's purpose was. Driving all the races out of the 10,000 tribe battlefield, and then reforging it? Although the various races had doubts in their hearts, no one dared to go over and disturb him. Time passed bit by bit. The power of the Nanming Fire Territory was even more terrifying. The 10,000 tribe battlefield, which was originally tens of millions of miles in size, had been completely tempered to only 100 miles in size. The more condensed it was, the more powerful the aura emitted by the 10,000 tribe battlefield was. At this moment, Qin Shujian's expression also became solemn. The 10,000 tribe battlefield was indeed a supreme embryo. Even with his current strength, he still had not reached a limit after forging for so long. Seeing this, Qin Shujian was also a little excited. The stronger the embryo, the stronger the divine weapon forged will be. Even if there's no way to compare with the investiture of the gods in my previous life, at least it won't be too far away. There was an idea in his mind. Qin Shujian's hands did not stop moving. In his inner world, a large amount of spirit energy was consumed. After absorbing the flesh and blood of many perfected immortals, the dragon vein had become very powerful. Although it was still in the category of a large spirit vein. However, it had almost reached a limit. Although the dragon vein was a large spirit vein now, the spirit energy it provided was comparable to 8 or 10 large spirit veins. Qin Shujian's consumption was huge. But the dragon vein could also completely support it. Bang! Another hammer fell, and the red iron piece had already shrunk to the size of about 10 feet. And vaguely, it was about to liquefy again. Seeing this, Qin Shujian took out the heaven list and then threw it into the fire lotus. But the difference was, when he threw the heaven list in, he left a hand of power to protect the spirituality born in the heaven list. Suddenly, the originally vast fire lotus was also forcibly suppressed by a terrifying power, and it was more than 1,000,000 times smaller. The power of the entire Nanming Fire Territory. At this moment, it was all absorbed and completely integrated into the fire lotus. It was reduced by 1,000,000 times. The power of the fire lotus also became terrifying. The original red fire lotus had turned into a strange green red at this time. Under the burning of the fire lotus, the heaven leaderboard and the 10,000 tribe battlefield melted away rapidly. The fallen fire tribe powerhouse is not simple. Qin Shujian's expression was extremely solemn. After absorbing the power of the Nanming Fire Territory and completely condensing it, he understood that the fallen fire tribe powerhouse was definitely not weak. The fire lotus in front of him, it had already transformed to a terrifying extent. Even the ordinary true fire of the sun would be inferior in front of it. Even if there was a true immortal here, the fire lotus would also completely devour and incinerate it. Although it had the power of the fire spirit of heaven and earth, it could not erase the power of the fire lotus itself. Qin Shujian calmed his mind. This time, he did not use the hammer to temper, but used his own power to control the fusion of the two. Nearly 2 months later, the flames of the Nanming Fire Territory dissipated. Only a fire lotus existed in the void. Since the beginning of the forging, Qin Shujian had devoted himself to it, and did not pay any attention to the passage of time. Now, in the sky, many strange phenomena had appeared. There were also forging rules that turned into a long river that spanned across the void. The human territory. East City. Xiang looked at the South Continent in front of him. There was a destructive force rising there. In front of that force, even he, who had broken through to the true immortal realm, felt a fatal threat. What kind of magic weapon is Emperor Qin forging? It's so powerful that it has never been before. Shi Yang's face was filled with shock and doubt. There was not much time left to establish the heavenly court. But Qin Shujian was still forging magic weapons. He wasn't sure how much more time the other party would need. More importantly, Shi Yang did not know the purpose of Qin Shujian forging magic weapons. Could it be the forging heavenly palace? A thought arose in his mind, but then he suppressed it. It should not be possible. There was no need to forge the heavenly palace at all. The original palace of the human emperor in the Qianyuan sacred ground could be used as the foundation of the heavenly palace. And even the forging heavenly palace could not have such a powerful power. After all, no matter how powerful the heavenly palace was, it was just a palace. The power in front of him was more like forging a terrifying magic weapon. How much time is left in 3 months? Shi Yang retracted his gaze and turned to look at Huazhan. Huazhan said, Your Highness, there are only 13 days left. 13 days! Shi Yang nodded and looked at the south continent again. Do you think Emperor Qin can successfully forge the magic weapon in 13 days? Once the time was set, it would not be a good thing to change it again, especially when it was a major event like the establishment of the heavenly court. Although there would not be any specific impact, it would still be bad. All the cultivators in the world. Although strength was the most important factor, luck was also the most important factor. Huazhan shook his head. I don't know much about forging, so I can't see much. But since Emperor Qin dares to do this, he should be confident. Yes. Shi Yang nodded and did not say anything else. The East City, which had become an empty city, was silent again. One day, there was a sudden thunderous explosion between heaven and earth. Then, the monstrous thunder tribulation struck down. The power of the thunder tribulation was more terrifying than that of a perfected immortal. All the strong cultivators paled in the face of the thunder tribulation. The thunder tribulation existed for a full 7 days. 7 days later, the thunder tribulation dissipated. Endless colorful light shone from the sky above the south continent, completely dyeing the sky of the 4 continents. A jade-like list. It was quietly suspended in the void. On the list, there were 9 Dao seals condensed, showing the level of this supreme treasure. Then, the 9 Taoist seals began to twist and distort, eventually transforming into 3 large characters. Investiture of the Gods. P.S. Monthly votes. Chapter 7:17. In the Human Territory. In the East City. At this moment, all the buildings in the city had disappeared. At the original location of the venue, an altar that was 99 feet tall had been built. The altar was mainly made of bluestone. However, an expert had carved runes on it, turning it into a powerful divine weapon. On the altar, there was a list placed horizontally on it. In front of the altar, there was an empty space. The heavenly patrol guards were guarding the surroundings to prevent anyone from causing trouble. In front of the East City Gate, above the city wall, there was a table with green plums and wine. 2 people sat opposite each other. Since the ancient times, we haven't seen the heavenly court for millions of years, Xiao Chengfeng said with a smile as he picked up the wine in front of him. I heard that there were 365 perfected immortals in the ancient heavenly court. In comparison, there are much fewer experts in the world now. Shi Yang smiled. As for Xiao Qingfeng's background, he was fully aware of it. The reincarnation of immortal Lord Haotsang. He was also a top expert in his previous life. However, when Shi Yang first received the news, he was a little shocked, but he had already calmed down. Talking about his previous status, he was the crown prince of the Great Xiao, and the other party was the Marquis of the Great Xiao. Strictly speaking, they were just subordinates. Looking at the present, he was a perfected immortal, and so was Xiao Chengfeng. Therefore, facing the reincarnation of immortal Lord Haotsang, Shi Yang did not feel any pressure. At most, they were equals. Xiao Chengfeng said. When the heavenly court was first established, there were number 365 perfected immortals. However, after the establishment of the heavenly court, there were fewer disputes between the races, and 365 perfected immortals were born. Now that there is a great battle, it is easier for perfected immortals to be born. In a few years, even if the strength of the great thousand world cannot be compared to the ancient times, it will not be much weaker. Xiao Chengfeng. He was also very confident. In his opinion, Qin Shujian was not simple. The ancient Emperor of Heaven, Qin Sang, was a shocking talent, but so was the current Emperor Qin. Xiang nodded when he heard that. Brother Xiao, do you know what it means to be a god? I have never heard of it. Xiao Chengfeng shook his head slightly. He knew what Xiang was asking. The other party was confused, and so was Xiao Chengfeng. Investiture. He had never heard of this name before. However, Xiao Chengfeng was certain that becoming a god was not that simple. This was because the investiture of the gods on the altar was already a supreme Tao artifact with 9 seals. Throughout the ages, there were only a handful of Tao artifacts that could reach the 9 seals level. Even the ancient heavenly court. In the past, there were only 2 9-sealed Tao artifacts. Among them, the immortal ranking of the myriad races recorded the experts in the world. The heavenly mirror observed the world. Nothing in the world could hide from it. It could be said that, although the 2 treasures of the ancient celestial court were not offensive treasures, they were still very useful. Hence, Xiao Chengfeng was very curious about the heaven roll on the altar. As for Shi Yang's question about becoming a god, he had asked the sky-breaking halberd and nameless before, but he didn't get an answer in the end. It's time! Xiao Chengfeng suddenly put down the wine glass in his hand, then stood up from his seat and looked outside the city wall. At this moment, a ruler had arrived. However, both Xiao Chengfeng and Shi Yang did not move easily. Only Huizhan, Qin Yuanbai, and the others were responsible for leading the rulers in. Will someone make a move at this time? Shi Yang looked at the incoming rulers with a dangerous glint in his eyes. Ever since he broke through to the true immortal realm, he hadn't really made a move yet. Shi Yang also wanted to know how strong he was after breaking through to the true immortal realm. Xiao Chengfeng glanced at him and shook his head. Those who dare to make a move now are the kind with water in their heads. Who can become an emperor is a fool. Making a move now was no different from committing suicide. Hearing that, Shi Yang didn't say anything. He just smiled faintly and collected his thoughts. Not long ago, the demon emperor of the demon clan proved his Tao. Now, the demon clan once again has a true immortal. A month ago, the demon emperor successfully proved his Tao. It also allowed the demon clan's weakened strength to recover a lot. After all, there was a huge difference between having a true immortal and not having one. Xiao Chengfeng said, the Golden Rock clan's Tao is narrow and not as strong as the original demon emperor's. Even if he succeeds, his strength won't be too strong. The 2 of them had a simple conversation. However, their gazes were fixed outside the city, and they did not move at all. Although it was impossible for anyone to make a move now, they still could not relax for even a moment. It was best if nothing happened. If something happened, they had to make sure that they would suppress it immediately. Establishing the heavenly court was a big deal. It was very important to Qin Shujian, and it was also very important to the human clan. Once the heavenly court was established, it would be used to rule the myriad clans. Then the human clan. They would be able to truly restore the glory of the ancient times. This was a supreme honor and also the greatest opportunity for the human clan after 1,000,000 years of silence. In front of the altar, a ruler had already appeared there. Unlike the last meeting of the myriad clans, this time, there were no seats. They were just standing there. No matter which race's ruler you were from, you could only stand now. Regarding this, no one dared to say anything. So be it. Anyway, with their cultivation, even if they stood for 1,000 or 100 years, they would not lose a piece of flesh. Moreover, they were just standing there for a while. Naturally, there was no problem. Soon, The other emperors also came one after another. In front of the altar, the emperors stood there in an orderly manner. Behind the emperors, there were many powerhouses of the human clan. Whether it was the Great Zhao, or the Qianyuan sacred ground, all the cultivators who had broken through to the celestial realm had already appeared here. The investiture of the gods. The demon emperor looked at the altar, where a list was placed horizontally. Just by looking at it, he could feel a strong threat from it. It could be seen. The supreme treasure that Qin Shujian had spent 2 months refining was definitely extraordinary. It was also a 9-sealed Dao artifact. It was also divided into strong and weak. The weak 9-sealed Dao artifact was only comparable to a level 1 immortal. But if it was a powerful 9-sealed Dao artifact, it could even suppress a level 2 or 3 immortal. The demon emperor also knew a lot about the materials of the investiture of the gods. After all, refining the 10,000 races battlefield would cause a huge commotion. He never expected that Qin Shujian had been preparing since he started refining the 10,000 races battlefield. The so-called 10,000 races battlefield was actually a backup plan left behind by the other party. Until now. Only then did he use this backup plan. The birth of a 9-sealed Dao artifact made the demon emperor very jealous. The demon clan wanted to have a 9-sealed Dao artifact. Everything else aside, it wouldn't be a problem for them to return to their peak state from 200,000 years ago. Not long after, Emperor Zhao had also arrived. This time, Emperor Zhao didn't wear a yellow robe. Instead, he wore plain clothes. But no matter how plain his clothes were, there was no way to hide his power. When they saw Emperor Zhao, the other emperors couldn't help but look away. Even the demon emperor, who had broken through to the true immortal realm, didn't dare to have too many thoughts at this moment. Most of them were true immortals. But sometimes the gap was so big that it made people despair. Half a day later, all the emperors had arrived. Rumble! Suddenly, the world trembled. Purple Chi rose from the east continent and spread toward the human clan territory. Finally, the Purple Chi stopped above the east city. Then, a person stepped on the long river of Purple Chi and landed in the east city. After he appeared, all the heavenly patrol guards and the human clan cultivators bowed in unison. Only the emperors. They didn't move at all. Landing in front of the altar, Qin Shujian, who was dressed in a green robe, looked at the emperors with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "In ancient times, the heavenly court ruled over the myriad clans and led the experts to resist the great calamity. However, the heavenly court collapsed and the emperors fell. Today, Qin Shujian of the human clan has gathered the fate of the myriad clans and established the heavenly court in the great wide world." As soon as Qin Shujian finished speaking, the sky shook violently. Endless rays of light spread out between heaven and earth, as if covering the entire great wide world. And what he said? It was also under the effect of the power of heaven and earth that it reached the ears of all living beings. Instantly, a crazy roar came from heavenly abyss. That shocking roar caused the entire western continent to shake crazily. Then, in the depths of the Sea of Death, stormy waves rose. Many fierce beasts that had calmed down were frantically fleeing outside at this moment. In Heavenly Pattern Island, all of the living beings were rooted to the spot, dumbfounded. Establish the heavenly court. Did an expert establish the heavenly court? Qin Shujian of the human clan is an expert of the human clan. After everyone heard the voice in their minds, their faces revealed ecstasy. As the foundation inheritance of the 3 clans, the living beings of Heavenly Pattern Island naturally knew what the heavenly court was. Or rather, they had been instilled with the glory of the ancient times since they were young, so they were very familiar with the heavenly court. But everyone also knew, as early as 1,000,000 years ago, the heavenly court had already been destroyed. At this moment, an expert had established the heavenly court again. In the Fantasy Sea sect, Xia Chao's body also seemed to have been struck by lightning, completely stunned on the spot. In his mind, only the words he heard just now echoed endlessly. The heavenly court! An expert has established the heavenly court again! Qin Shujian of the human clan, could it really be him? Xia Chao's face was filled with indescribable excitement. As the descendant of the ancient Emperor Xia, he constantly recalled the glory of the human clan and the heavenly court in the ancient times. However, Xia Chao also knew one thing. If the heavenly court was destroyed, the human clan would definitely suffer heavy losses. Restoring the glory of the ancient times would not be an easy task. Until now. Only now did he know that another human expert had established the heavenly court. Moreover, to be able to transmit his voice to Heavenly Pattern Island, there was only one possibility. The other party had already subdued the myriad races and obtained the recognition of the heavens and earth. Only then could such a phenomenon occur. Qin Shujian. Xia Chao would not be unfamiliar with this name no matter what. As early as a few years ago, a human cultivator had coincidentally entered Heavenly Pattern Island. For this reason, he had even sent the human clan's god slayer Zhu Bing. As early as that time, Xia Chao had already seen through Qin Shujian's extraordinariness. However, he had never thought that the other party would be able to grow to such an extent in just a few years. To be able to establish the heavenly court, he had to subdue the myriad races and obtain the recognition of the heavens and earth. If he wanted to achieve this step, he had to be at least a true immortal, and an extremely powerful existence among true immortals. Otherwise, how could he have the qualifications to establish the heavenly court? However, in just a few years, he had broken through from the third level of the heaven-human realm to the true immortal realm. Moreover, he was not an ordinary true immortal. Xia Chao had never heard of such talent. In his memories, even someone as strong as the Emperor of Heaven did not seem to have such a godly speed of advancement. With the establishment of the heavenly court, the human race will definitely prosper. Perhaps we can take advantage of this opportunity to completely restore the glory of the ancient times. Perhaps we, the living beings of Heavenly Pattern Island, will truly have a chance to leave. Xia Chao took a deep breath and forcefully suppressed his trembling heart. His current state. It no longer mattered whether he left Heavenly Pattern Island or not. However, there were still new cultivators born on Heavenly Pattern Island, and there was no lack of talented ones. Originally, it was because of various reasons. As a result, the cultivators of Heavenly Pattern Island would not easily leave the island. But if there was a chance, how could Xia Chao not hope to be able to return to his former land? When he was excited. In the Jade Wave sect and the Saint God sect, Ancestor Tong Tian and Saint Star's expressions were somewhat complicated. The establishment of the heavenly court. Of course, this was something worthy of celebration. However, it was still the human race who established the heavenly court, so they felt somewhat powerless in their hearts. 1,000,000 years ago, the human race was at its peak, and there was no one who could resist it. 1,000,000 years later, it was still the human race who established the heavenly court. The other races simply did not have the qualifications to compare. It was also at this moment Xia Chao once again used his original method to meet Ancestor Tong Tian and Saint Star. There is another tremor in the depths of the Sea of Death. It should be caused by the establishment of the heavenly court. Now that the ferocious beasts are about to arrive, we can only activate the restrictions left behind by the emperors. Xia Chao went straight to the point. It was different from the previous time when the Sea of Death shook for no reason. This time, he clearly knew the reason. Because Qin Shujian's voice covered the great wide world, it would naturally awaken the existence in the depths of the Sea of Death. Therefore, the tremor was something that was inevitable. Hearing this, Saint Star's expression was complicated. In that case, we can only activate the Emperor's restriction. However, we have already consumed a lot of energy previously. If we activate it again this time, then the Emperor's restriction won't have much energy left. There's nothing we can do about it. If we can hold on for a while, then so be it. Xia Chao shook his head. If they couldn't even survive the current calamity, how could they have the qualifications to talk about anything else? Last time, the emperors killed a lot of true immortal ferocious beasts. The flesh and blood fell on Heavenly Pattern Island. We can use this opportunity to try to repair the emperor's restriction. Seeing this, the two of them stopped talking. Not long after, the emperor's restriction was activated once again. They saw a huge formation covering the entire Heavenly Rune Island. This time, the emperors of the three races appeared in the sky once again. But unlike last time, there was a faint smile on Emperor Xiao's face this time. A true immortal ferocious beast pounced over. With a punch, he killed the ferocious beast on the spot. Then, the demon emperor and Ling Huang also attacked at the same time, killing all the ferocious beasts that approached Heavenly Pattern Island. Whether it was a true immortal ferocious beast, or a heavenly human ferocious beast, as long as it was close to Heavenly Pattern Island, it was killed by them. The originally clear sea surface was already dyed red with blood. The strength of the emperors was extremely tyrannical. Even if it was only the power imprint left behind, it was not something that ordinary true immortals could compare to. No matter how ferocious the ferocious beasts were, they did not fear death. At this moment, without any power to fight back, they were being wantonly slaughtered. An instinctive fear rose in their hearts. Coupled with the tremors of the sea of death, they quickly disappeared. Therefore, these ferocious beasts also consciously retreated. The ferocious beasts retreated. The emperors naturally stopped. Unlike last time, when Emperor Xia stopped, he tilted his head and looked in a certain direction. The smile on his face became more and more obvious. He slowly opened his mouth and said a sentence. Then, he disappeared from where he stood. As for the demon emperor and Ling Huang, their expressions were complicated. After looking in the same direction as Emperor Xia, they also disappeared. Eternal human Tao! This sentence rang in the ears of all the humans on Heavenly Pattern Island. When Xia Chao heard this familiar voice, his face trembled. Father! In the depths of Heaven Abyss, there was endless darkness. In the darkness, the universal heavenly lock entered, as if it was sealing something. Heavenly Court! The Emperor of Heaven, Qin Tsang! A slow voice came from the darkness. It was hoarse and low, but it was also filled with murderous and tyrannical intent. At this moment, the darkness retreated a little, revealing the face of a terrifying ferocious beast. The two words, Heavenly Court. It reminded the ferocious beast of a sealed memory. A person named Qin Tsang entered Heaven Abyss and fought with him. Thinking of this, the ferocious beast turned his scarlet and tyrannical gaze to his right arm. There was still an indelible scar there. Even if the wound had healed, the scar was still there. Qin Tsang! The ferocious beast let out a crazy roar. His scarlet eyes suddenly became even more terrifying. However, his words were imprisoned in Heaven Abyss. Only his voice came out, shaking heaven and earth and the void. Don't let me out. Otherwise I will destroy your heavenly court and tear you to pieces. The ferocious beast roared again and again. The universal heavenly lock trembled crazily, as if it would break at any moment. After a long time, the commotion in Heaven Abyss gradually calmed down. The darkness covered again and swallowed the ferocious beast. Only the slightly trembling universal heavenly lock proved what had happened just now. In the human territory, East City, when Heaven Abyss and the Sea of Death were rioting, Qin Shujian's expression was normal. He was not affected at all. As for the emperors, their hearts were shaken. However, they did not care too much. After Qin Shujian finished speaking, they bowed in unison and shouted in unison, "We pay our respects to the Emperor of Heaven!" As soon as they finished speaking, the fate of the myriad clans shook crazily. Long rivers of fate flowed towards the east city of the human territory. Then, countless fate condensed in the sky above the east city. Then, it turned into a jade seal and slowly fell from the sky. Qin Shujian stretched out his hand. He held the jade seal in his hand. Boom! Heaven and earth rumbled. All the creatures of the myriad clans felt something. They bowed in unison towards the east city and shouted in unison, We pay our respects to the Emperor of Heaven! Their voices were not loud. However, when they condensed, they broke through the clouds. At this point, the fate of the myriad clans in the world had condensed into the Jade Seal and landed in Qin Shujian's hands. An invisible fluctuation spread out from his body. It was supposed to be a simple green robe. At this moment, it set off Qin Shujian's might. Then, he held the Jade Seal in his hand and said loudly, "Everyone, please rise! Thank you, Emperor of Heaven!" The Emperor stood up. At this moment, every emperor had a complicated expression. Looking at Qin Shujian in front of them, they already understood that the establishment of the Heavenly Court was officially completed. After all, establishing the Heavenly Court. It had never been a complicated matter. As long as the myriad clans submitted, they would naturally have the qualifications to establish the Heavenly Court that ruled the myriad clans. Of course, things did not sound complicated, but it was actually very difficult to achieve this step. How many powerhouses did the myriad clans have? It was not so easy to suppress the myriad clans. Even Emperor Zhao, who was known as the #1 powerhouse in the 4 great continents, did not have the qualifications to suppress the myriad clans. After all, he was as strong as the #1. He might not be able to suppress the myriad clans. Unless he was really too strong, it was only possible. So, Qin Shujian had done it, so he naturally had the qualifications to become the Emperor of Heaven. With the establishment of the Heavenly Court, it is time for the emperors to confer gods. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Shujian turned around and walked up the stairs to the altar. The altar was not high, but he was just like an ordinary person, walking up steadily. About half a quarter of an hour later, Qin Shujian walked up to the altar and arrived in front of the god roll. Looking at the god roll in front of him, Qin Shujian said loudly, "Today, I will set up the heavenly list and the god roll to confer titles to all living beings in the world." As soon as he finished speaking, the Jade Seal was imprinted on it. In an instant, the power of heaven and earth rolled over like a wave and immediately poured into the god roll. Immediately, the god roll slowly rose from the altar. A vast and powerful aura was emitted from the altar. With the altar as the center, it spread out in all directions. Everyone's hearts trembled. If the original god roll was already a top-notch 9-seal Tao artifact, now that it had absorbed the power of heaven and earth, it had directly completed a transformation. Although the god roll was still a 9-seal Tao artifact due to the rules of heaven and earth, its power had far surpassed the limit of a 9-seal Tao artifact. Standing in front of the god roll, Qin Shujian also had a faint smile on his face. In the world of great battles, it was because of the surging power of heaven and earth that the various clans would compete with each other. But now, the myriad clans had submitted. The power of heaven and earth that the various clans possessed naturally fell into the hands of the Heavenly Court. It could be said that the scene in front of him was already within Qin Shujian's expectations. Half a day later, the aura emitted by the god roll gradually diminished. But even so, it still made the emperors of the myriad clans feel great pressure. What a powerful divine weapon! Standing in the ranks of the humans, Shao Qingfeng's pupils suddenly constricted. He had the memories of his previous life. He naturally knew how powerful the immortal ranking of the myriad clans of the ancient Heavenly Court and the Heavenly Mirror were. However, the god roll in front of him had already surpassed the 2 Heavenly Court treasures. But one thing to know was, up until now, the god roll had not been infused with the power of the rules of heaven and earth. If this divine weapon was infused with the power of the rules of heaven and earth like the 2 divine weapons of the ancient Heavenly Court, then it would definitely become even more terrifying. In his sea of consciousness, the sky-breaking halberd also vibrated slightly. Immortal Lord, the god roll in the Emperor of Heaven's hands is so powerful. I feel that the divine weapon is no weaker than the Foretribulation Zhu Bing. In time, it might be even more terrifying. As Zhu Bing, the sky-breaking halberd had seen countless Taoist artifacts and divine weapons. But no matter how powerful the divine weapon was, it was at most comparable to the second or third tribulation Zhu Bing. Once Zhu Bing reached the fourth tribulation, his power would increase greatly. He was not comparable to Zhu Bing at all. A divine weapon that was comparable to the fourth tribulation Zhu Bing. This was the first time the sky-breaking halberd had seen it. And he was sure that the god roll did not carry the power of the rules. In this way, it was even more terrifying. John Doe, who had been silent, also slowly said, "This is the first time I've seen the power of the god roll. Throughout the ancient times, there was no such powerful divine weapon. I've also never heard of the means to carry the power of heaven and earth. The Emperor of Heaven has a big secret that is beyond our imagination." While speaking, Nameless had already automatically replaced the honorific title of Heavenly Emperor. The Heavenly Court was established. Then Qin Shujian was already the Emperor of Heaven. This was recognized by all clans in heaven and earth. To some extent, the Emperor of Heaven was equivalent to the ruler of heaven and earth. All living beings of heaven and earth had to respect him. On the altar, Qin Shujian held the god roll in one hand and the imperial jade seal in the other. Then he turned to look at the emperors below. "The heavenly court is established, and the emperors are conferred as gods. Under the title of Emperor of Heaven, there are 5 emperors. Under the 5 emperors, there are 4 war gods. Under the 4 war gods, there are 365 Zhou Tian constellations. Anyone who leaves their name on the god roll will be blessed by the luck of the heavenly court and the power of heaven and earth. At the same time, a little true spirit will be left on the roll. Even if you die in the future, you can use the true spirit to be reborn." Boom! Qin Shujian's words made everyone's expression change drastically. Originally, the emperors of the various clans only had a lot of thoughts about the god roll because of its power. But now, after hearing what Qin Shujian said, the emperors of the various clans were really excited. Blessed by the luck of the heavenly court. Blessed by the power of heaven and earth. There was no need to mention the benefits of just these 2 points. Why did the various clans start a war? It was to fight for the power of heaven and earth so that they could reach a higher realm. Now, leaving their name on the god roll directly gave them such benefits, which was already beyond the expectations of the emperors. But what really shocked them was Qin Shujian's last sentence. Leaving a little true spirit on the god roll would give them a chance to be reborn in the future. In other words, any powerhouse who left their name on the god roll could be reborn with the help of the true spirit on the god roll if they accidentally died in other places. In this way, it was already equivalent to being immortal in disguise. Of course, this method was far from being truly immortal and indestructible. But even so, the effect of the god roll was enough to make everyone scramble like a flock of ducks. 5 emperors. 4 war gods. The 365 heavenly constellation mansions. Adding up all the positions, there were only 374 spots. Among the various clans present, there were already more than 1,000 emperors. In other words, at least 2/3 of the emperors were not qualified to enter the god roll. At this moment, the others also finally understood a little about what the so-called apotheosized god was. On the altar, Qin Shujian held the god roll and shouted in a deep voice, "Qi Tian, come forward and listen to the roll!" As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Zhao took a step forward, cupped his hands and lowered his head. "Here, I confer upon you the title of Emperor Zhongyuan, the leader of the 5 emperors," Qin Shujian said in a clear voice. Then, a mysterious power was emitted from the god roll and directly landed on Emperor Zhao's body. Then, Emperor Zhao's aura became much stronger. Originally, he was only 1 step away from the 2nd level immortal, but now, he had officially broken through the original shackles. At the same time, the 3 words Emperor Zhao also officially appeared on the god roll. Seeing this, everyone cupped their hands and bowed. "Greetings, Emperor Zhongyuan! You're too polite!" Emperor Zhao nodded slightly and then stood to the side. At this moment, Everyone's eyes were on Qin Shujian, and their hearts were still burning with passion. Receiving the title of Emperor Zhongyuan, he directly broke through to the second-level immortal realm. The power of the god role. It was much more terrifying than they had expected. However, the emperors were not surprised that Emperor Zhao could obtain the position of Emperor Zhongyuan. No matter what. Qin Shujian was also a human. If there were benefits, he would definitely think of the human race first. The position of the leader of the 5 emperors naturally fell on Emperor Zhao. As for the remaining positions of the 4 emperors, it made people envious. Qin Shujian said again. Xiao Jiuge, come forward and receive the title. Yes. The dog emperor stepped forward. Xiao Jiuge was his name, but not many experts really knew about it. So when the emperors heard Xiao Jiuge's name, they had a puzzled look in their eyes. Until the dog emperor stepped forward. Only then did they know who Xiao Jiuge was. I confer upon you the title of Emperor Dongyang, one of the 5 emperors. As Qin Shujian finished speaking, suddenly, a powerful force landed on the dog emperor's body. Boom! The dog emperor's aura became much stronger, but it was still far from breaking through to the second-level immortal realm like Emperor Zhao. After receiving the title of Emperor Dongyang, a bright smile appeared on the dog emperor's face. He knew. He had made the right bet this time, and he had made a huge profit. When Qin Shujian wanted to establish the heavenly court, he had already guessed that he would gain a lot of benefits. But he had never thought that he had a chance to become one of the 5 emperors. Moreover, from the current order of conferring titles, Emperor Dongyang's title was only below Emperor Zhongyuan's. He was ranked second among the 5 emperors. After that, Qin Shujian said, Si Hai, come forward and receive the title. Yes. I confer upon you the title of Emperor Shiling, one of the 5 emperors. Qin Shujian announced. After that, Si Hanhai's name appeared on the investiture of the gods. At the same time, his aura increased greatly. If Si Hanhai, who had just broken through to the true immortal realm, was only at the stage of consolidation, now that he had the support of the investiture of the gods, his strength, he had at least reached the mid-stage or late stage of the first-level immortal realm. Although he had not broken through, he was still much stronger than the other immortals. At this moment, 3 of the 5 emperors' positions had already been taken. Many emperors were expressionless, but their hearts had already become heavy. They were all very clear. The remaining 2 positions were probably not fated to be with them. The demon emperor stood still, but his hands and his sleeves had unknowingly clenched into fists. If Emperor Zhao had received the title of Emperor Zhongyuan, he would not be dissatisfied. But the dog emperor and Si Hanhai had received the titles of Emperor Dongyang and Emperor Shiling respectively. The demon emperor was very unhappy. In his opinion, what right did the 2 of them have to be ranked ahead of him? And now, there were only 2 positions left among the 5 emperors. The demon emperor's confidence that victory was within his grasp began to waver. He was not sure. Would he be able to get the title of Emperor of the 5 emperors in the last 2 positions? If Qin Shujian really did not give it to him, there was nothing he could do. Just as the demon emperor was feeling apprehensive, beside his ear, a calm voice rang out. Yan Ding, come forward and receive the title. The demon emperor forcefully suppressed the agitation in his heart, then took a step forward. Here. I title you as Emperor Nan Yen, one of the 5 emperors. Qin Shujian's expression was calm as he conferred the title of Emperor of the 5 emperors. To be honest, he actually did not want to give the demon emperor the position of Emperor of the 5 emperors. But among the emperors, no one was more suitable than the demon emperor. If he were to insert a human true immortal into the ranks of the 5 imperial emperors, his table manners would be too unsightly. So, Qin Shujian might as well confer this position to the demon emperor. After the demon emperor was conferred the title, on the investiture of the gods, similarly his name appeared. At that moment, The demon emperor discovered that his originally complete spiritual god had uncontrollably split a trace of its origin and entered the investiture of the gods. This discovery. Immediately, he was greatly shocked. Losing a trace of the spiritual god's origin did not affect a perfected immortal. But, after leaving his name on the investiture of the gods, the demon emperor had a kind of understanding in his heart. The investiture of the gods had given them powerful benefits, but it was also a disguised form of imprisoning the people on the list. As long as Qin Shujian was willing, he could kill the people on the list at any time through the investiture of the gods. Unknowingly, his little life was already in the hands of the other party. This fact made the demon emperor's heart sink. However, his own strength had increased a lot, which made him feel much better. The main reason was that what was done could not be undone. It was impossible to resist. Besides, with Qin Shujian's strength, even without the investiture of the gods, it would not be difficult for him to kill him. After figuring out the key points, the demon emperor's heart had been lifted. Finally, under everyone's gaze, Qin Shujian once again said a name. "Anhun, come forward and listen to the conferment." "Yes." The Soul Protection Emperor immediately reacted and then stepped forward with an excited expression. Qin Shujian said, "I confer you the title of Emperor of the North Sea, one of the 5 emperors." After saying that, he left his name on the investiture of the gods. At the same time, a powerful force rose from the Soul Protection Emperor's body. Rumble, the broken long river of rules suddenly appeared. Immediately after, a mysterious power was seen acting on the long river of rules, causing the broken long river of rules to be restored bit by bit. Immediately after, then, he saw a rule monument appear from within. Unknowingly, the originally cracked rule steel was already completely undamaged. The rules were complete. The rule monument was completely repaired. The aura on the Soul Protection Emperor's body suddenly became tyrannical, not weaker than the Dog Emperor and the Demon Emperor. P.S. I recommend a new book. My senior sister is a pit. Cough cough, there is absolutely no PY transaction chapter. Also, I ask for monthly votes. Chapter 718. The rules were incomplete. The rule monument was cracked. Both had always been the pain in the Soul Protection Emperor's heart. Especially after the Void Demon attacked the Soul Protection Secret Realm, the rule monument was severely damaged, and its strength fell to not much stronger than a half-immortal. During this period of time, the Soul Protection Emperor was wondering if he should abandon his original path and reaffirm the Tao again. In the end, this time, the Emperor's investiture directly healed his hidden danger. Regarding this, the soul-protecting sovereign was more excited than all the other sovereigns. At this moment, the positions of the 5 emperors had been completely established. Although the remaining emperors were dissatisfied, they couldn't say anything. It was very simple. Emperor Zhao Shitian was the strongest, and no one dared to object when he took the position of Emperor Zhongyuan. The remaining 4 positions, they were all true immortal powerhouses. It could be said that now the true immortals of the myriad clans were almost wiped out. It was not easy to fill the positions of the 5 emperors with one from each clan. If Qin Shujian gave all the positions of the 5 emperors to the human clan, no matter how afraid they would express their dissatisfaction. But now, the human clan only occupied one of the positions of the 5 emperors. So, the dissatisfaction in the hearts of the emperors decreased a lot. The positions of the 5 emperors were gone. The positions of the 4 war gods. Naturally, they fell into their sights. Qin Shujian continued to investiture and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Chengfeng, come forward and listen to the investiture." "Yes." Among the human clan, Xiao Chengfeng stepped forward. Qin Shujian said, "I confer you the title of Eastern War God, the leader of the 4 war gods." Suddenly, Xiao Qingfeng's name appeared in the investiture of the gods. Immediately after, a powerful force surged out from the investiture of the gods and landed on Xiao Qingfeng's body. Boom! A powerful aura suddenly erupted, causing all the Emperor's expressions to change. Even the Demon Emperor and the other emperors who had already become gods looked at Xiao Chengfeng with a completely different gaze. The Xiao Chengfeng before the Tao affirmation. His strength was already shockingly powerful. After the Tao affirmation, although the other party did not make a move, his strength was already among the top. Now, he had obtained the title of Eastern God of War. Xiao Chengfeng's strength had become even more terrifying. In the eyes of the Demon Emperor, there was a faint look of fear on his face. Momentum of heaven and earth! The providence of the heavenly court! As Xiao Chengfeng felt the changes in his body, he was somewhat shocked. He didn't leave his name on the investiture of the gods. No matter what, there was no way he could comprehend how powerful it was. At this moment, Xiao Chengfeng finally understood why Qin Shujian became a god. Let's not talk about other things. Just those that left their names on the divine sealed decree would have their strength forcefully increased by a level. It was the same as forcefully giving birth to a group of powerhouses. Other than that, leaving his name on the investiture of the gods, the subsequent benefits were also endless. Xiao Chengfeng even had a premonition that it would not be long before he broke through to the second heaven immortal realm. With his strength, after breaking through to the second heaven celestial realm, the terrifying battle prowess that he possessed was self-evident. Even now, Xiao Chengfeng had a premonition that with the support of the investiture of the gods, he could already fight against the stronger level 4 immortals. The head of the 5 great imperial emperors fell on Zhao Emperor. The head of the 4 great imperial war gods fell on Xiao Chengfeng. The 2 most important positions. They were all taken by the human clan. The various clans were even more dissatisfied. However, even if they were dissatisfied, they could not say anything at this moment. Because just like Zhao Emperor, Xiao Chengfeng's strength was also terrifyingly powerful. If one were to rank the powerhouses of the 4 continents, Xiao Chengfeng's strength would at least be in the top 3. The scene of him attaining the Tao in the past. Everyone saw it with their own eyes. With his own strength, he dominated nearly 10 true immortals. That kind of strength. It was enough to shock everyone. After conferring the title on Xiao Chengfeng, Qin Shujian continued with the investiture of the gods. West Pole War God Dark Emperor. South Pole War God Earth Emperor. North Pole War God Earth Emperor. The positions of the 4 great imperial war gods were either occupied by the human clan or by their allies. There was no other way. The true immortals who could be conferred titles had already been conferred. The only true immortal left was probably the human clan's crown prince Xiyang. At this moment, even Xiyang did not get the position of the 4 great imperial war gods. The other sovereigns who had not attained the Tao had nothing to say even if they were dissatisfied. Not long after, the conferment of the 4 great imperial war gods was completed. After that, Qin Shujian began to confer the position of the Zhou Tian constellation. Just like the previous 2, the human clan Xiyang was ranked first in the Zhou Tian constellation. The remaining ones were the positions left for the others. As the positions were conferred one by one, many sovereigns who had obtained the power of the investiture of the gods directly stepped into the ranks of the Tao. Rumble! The mother stream of laws appeared between heaven and earth. One of the sovereigns laughed out loud and entered the mother stream. Instantly, many people raised their heads to look at the sky with envy in their eyes. Becoming an immortal. It was the biggest threshold to stop all living beings. Only by breaking through to the true immortal realm could one enjoy a lifespan of 129,600 years and truly break free from the shackles of the lifespan of a clan. Or else, even the longest clan would at most pass away in a few tens of thousands of years. For a full 3 days. 365 The position of the Zhou Tian constellation was officially conferred. All the sovereigns who had been conferred the title, their strength had increased greatly. 1/3 of the sovereigns had directly become immortals after being conferred the title. In other words, The situation where the true immortals of the myriad clans had been reduced to single digits because of Qin Shijian's massacre had completely disappeared. At this moment, the number of true immortals in the upper-class world. It had completely broken through 3 digits. Regarding this, Xiao Chengfeng was also shocked. He thought that it would take a lot of time for the heavenly court to have the power of the ancient times. But he had never thought about it. Just one investiture of the gods had allowed the heavenly court to produce more than 100 true immortals. Although there was still a certain gap compared to the 365 true immortals of the ancient times. But looking at the current momentum, it would not be difficult for the other sovereigns who had the investiture of the gods to become immortals. One investiture of the gods. It greatly increased the strength of the myriad clans. However, the investiture of the gods had the effect of sealing the true spirit. The lives of all the cultivators on the list were in the hands of Qin Shijian. As a result, the other party did not have to worry at all. Because the strength of the myriad clans was too strong, it would affect the foundation of the heavenly court. As long as the investiture of the gods was in their hands, all the cultivators on the list had no chance of resisting the heavenly court. At this moment, the experts who had obtained the deity position had smiles on their faces, while the sovereigns who had not obtained the deity position looked disappointed. It was also at this moment Qin Shijian once again imprinted the imperial seal on the investiture of the gods. Then, the investiture of the gods shook. It flew up into the air, and countless streams of light shot out from it, disappearing into the void of heaven and earth. Then, in the upper-class world, unfamiliar memories and information appeared in the minds of all the living beings of the myriad clans. I have conferred titles to my true body in the investiture of the gods. Apart from the 5 imperial emperors, the 4 extreme war gods, and the 365 heavenly cycle constellations, I have also conferred 720 heavenly cycle generals. Apart from those who have the deity position, anyone who obtains the general divine talisman can leave their name on the Zhou Tian war general list. Those who are on the list can obtain the blessing of providence. In addition, if the heavenly court adds another deity position in the future, they can choose a new deity from the Zhou Tian war general list. Qin Shijian's words. Not only did it reach the ears of the people present, but it also reached the ears of all the living beings of the myriad clans through the investiture of the gods. 720 Zhou Tian war general! The eyes of many cultivators glowed. Although the Zhou Tian war general list could not be compared to the deity position, it could still obtain the blessing of providence. In addition to that, most importantly, those who were on the list were equivalent to future candidates for the deity position. Everyone could understand. The deity position that they had now would definitely not be all the deity positions in the future. After all, the heavenly court had just been established. Everything had not been perfected yet. In the future, more deity positions would definitely be born. When that time came, those who left their names on the war general list would have a chance to obtain the true deity position. At this moment, everyone's hearts trembled again. Soon, they found that in their minds, the originally blank Zhou Tian war general list had an unfamiliar name. Someone has obtained the war general divine talisman. Some emperors had complicated expressions. Right now, 720 war general divine talismans were scattered all over the world. It was completely up to luck to obtain the war general divine talisman. They really wanted to snatch it. This was because the war general divine talisman was not fixed. As long as the owner of the war general divine talisman was defeated, the war general divine talisman would automatically leave and fall into the hands of the victor. This news. It was also covered by the unfamiliar memories in their minds. But now that things were not over, no one dared to leave without permission. Qin Shijian said in a deep voice, "The heavenly court has been established. The emperors have completed their investiture, and can leave now. You all have the deity position, so you can naturally find the location of the heavenly court." After saying that, he simply waved his hand. All the experts present did not have any way to resist and were directly swept out of the East City. And after they left the East City, all of a sudden the Eastern City rose from the ground and disappeared into the sky. Inside the East City, Qin Shujian suddenly blasted the Imperial Jade Seal in his hand into the void. In an instant, a huge hole seemed to have been torn open in the sky. Then, the East City directly entered it and disappeared from everyone's sight, entering the heaven and earth hole. At this moment, the East City seemed to have entered a completely different world. The ground was white. The wind was also white. Except for the sky above, which was illuminated by Zhou Tian's stars, the rest of the place was white. The white wind blew past. It caused the East City to tremble violently as if it would shatter at any moment. The nine heavens astral wind of this era is still so powerful. Qin Shujian had a faint smile on his face. He was now driving the East City into the heaven and earth astral wind layer. This was the place where the sun and the moon had to pass through. It was also the place where the nine heavens astral wind wreaked havoc. Any expert who was not a true immortal, as long as they barged into the nine heavens astral wind without permission, they would instantly be annihilated. Even if they were ordinary true immortals. If they were here, there was also the possibility of dying. Because this place was not only threatened by the nine heavens astral wind, but also by the sun and the moon. The sun had the true fire. It was enough to burn and devour a true immortal. The moon had the power of extreme cold, which could also destroy the flesh and bones of a true immortal. In the third era, the heavenly court existed above the nine heavens. So, Qin Shujian was now going to place the heavenly court in the heaven and earth astral wind layer. The sun rose from the Dead Sea domain and slowly entered the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Immediately, the surrounding temperature rose sharply. The violent astral wind surged crazily, as if it was also avoiding the heat of the true fire of the sun. Although the East City was a top divine weapon, but it was not an easy task to resist the true fire of the sun. The array formation on the city shattered inch by inch. Then, cracks appeared on the green city wall, as if it would shatter at any moment. True fire of the sun! Qin Shujian stood on the altar with his hands behind his back. That terrifying temperature was so hot that even he could feel it. However, with his current strength, unless he really entered the depths of the sun, the true fire of the sun would not be able to do anything. The East City had already entered a state of collapse. The burning of the true fire of the sun, and the heaven and earth astral wind raging. This divine weapon, which had stood guard in the human territory for many years and had killed many experts, had reached its limit. Boom! The East City shattered with a loud bang. The entire city turned into countless fragments in front of the heaven and earth astral wind, scattering in all directions. It was also at this time Qin Shujian reached out, as if holding the universe in his hand, and directly grabbed all the fragments of the East City. Then, with another thought, he had already used the fire-controlling art, and drew the true fire of the sun over. The true fire of the sun, known as the strongest divine fire in the world, rushed over like a long dragon. Wherever it passed, even the heaven and earth astral wind was burned and annihilated by the true fire, under the control of the fire-controlling art. The true fire of the sun swept through the heaven and earth astral wind layer, wrapping all the fragments of the East City inside and melting them without much effort. The melting speed. It was simply astonishingly fast. The true fire of the sun is indeed the most powerful divine fire in the world. If I can successfully cultivate the Vermilion Bird Clan's innate divine fire, it would be a good thing. Qin Shujian felt the temperature of the true fire of the sun and had already associated it with holy fire. Now that he was getting stronger and stronger. Holy fire of the 8th level of the celestial realm. To be honest, it was already not very useful. The divine fire that the other party controlled was not as useful as Qin Shujian's fire-controlling art. However, the innate divine fire was indeed powerful to be on par with the true fire of the sun. If there was a chance. Qin Shujian also wanted to cultivate holy fire, and it would be best if he could completely cultivate the innate true fire. However, it was not easy to cultivate the innate divine fire. If holy fire wanted to have a real innate divine fire, he had to at least break through to the true immortal realm. To personally cultivate a true immortal, it was not an easy task. Even with Qin Shijian's current means, it was very difficult to personally raise a cultivator to the true immortal realm. The best way, it was to use the god role to become a god. The reason why the god role can become a god is because it contains the destiny of the myriad races and the power of the world. If there are too many deity positions, the effect of becoming a god will be reduced greatly. In this way, the effect of becoming a god will not be achieved. If I want to increase the number of deity positions, I have to at least wait until the myriad races become stronger and increase the destiny of the entire great wide world. The current heavenly courts are far inferior to the heavenly courts of the third era. Qin Shijian shook his head slightly. The heavenly courts of the third era had more than one Dao Fruit Realm expert. As for the half-step Dao Fruit Realm, there were many. Apart from that, there were many true immortals in the upper 3 levels. As for the true immortals in the middle 3 levels, they were only qualified to obtain the weakest deity position. Some of them did not even have a deity position. The true immortals in the lower 3 levels, not to mention becoming a god, they did not even have the right to step into the heavenly courts. It could be said that the third era was very powerful. In fact, there was a time when every era was very powerful. It was the same in the first era. It was the same in the second era. In Qin Shijian's opinion, if there was no great calamity of the demon abyss in the ancient times, the ancient heavenly courts would not be much weaker than the heavenly courts of the third era. Unfortunately, the heavenly courts collapsed. Therefore, the current era was very weak, very weak. At this moment, the true sun flame had completely melted the fragments of the East City. Then, Qin Shijian shattered a few more storage rings that he carried with him. A large number of materials were thrown into them. In an instant, they fused with the materials of the East City. The true sun flame burned. Qin Shijian spread out his spiritual will and began to forge. Since the heavenly courts had been established, naturally, the heavenly palace could not be lost. What he needed to do now was to personally forge the heavenly palace. Qin Shijian forged the heavenly palace in the astral wind layer. As for the other emperors, they had already left. The establishment of the heavenly courts. The emperors became gods. It could be said that this was something that was enough to change the situation of the great, wide world. Especially the matter of the emperors becoming gods. It even allowed many emperors to break through their original boundaries and break through to the true immortal realm. If the myriad races were said to be very weak, then now, the strength of the myriad races could be said to be the strongest after the ancient times were destroyed. However, not everyone was satisfied with this god bestowment. There were also some emperors who did not obtain the deity position and were very dissatisfied with this. The blood spirit secret realm. The current blood Ling Huang's face was gloomy. Among the emperors who did not obtain the deity position, he was one of them. The blood Eldar was a top clan. There had never been such a situation. However, blood Ling Huang was also very clear that his strength was the weakest among the emperors. 9th level of the heaven realm. It was not presentable at all. It was not that the 9th level of the heaven realm was very weak, but it was the weakest among the emperors. As for the deity position of the heavenly courts, blood Ling Huang was also very envious. All the powerhouses who had obtained the deity position had their strength increased to different degrees. Some even broke through to the true immortal realm on the spot. If he could obtain the deity position, it was not impossible for him to break through to the 10th level of the heaven realm, or even the half-immortal realm. When that time came, although his strength was still not very strong, it was much better than the current situation. An elder said in a deep voice, "Emperor, this time, Qin Shijian." Crack! As soon as he finished speaking, a lightning tribulation struck down from the sky, directly tearing apart the blood spirit secret realm and bombarding the elder's body. The powerful lightning tribulation power. The elder with the strength of the 8th level of the heaven realm was directly split open, and he almost died on the spot. It was a sudden change. The expressions of Blood Ling Huang and the others changed drastically. Quick, bring the spiritual medicine over immediately to heal the elder's injuries. Blood Ling Huang shouted. There were not many Blood Eldar mighty figures now, so no one could die. Otherwise, the strength of the Blood Eldar would be weakened again. Soon, some clansmen came in and carried the elder out. Blood Ling Huang's expression calmed down a little, and he said coldly, "The name of the heavenly court is not to be casually called out. This lightning tribulation is a warning. All of you should be more careful in the future." After saying that, he was also sad in his heart. They could not even call out his name. But there was nothing they could do about it, because the Emperor of Heaven was a position recognized by heaven and earth, which was equivalent to the ruler of heaven and earth. The boundless world. Billions of living beings. They were all under the control of the heavenly court. In this way, the name of the Emperor of Heaven was naturally supreme. Anyone who dared to disrespect the Emperor of Heaven and called him by his name would be punished by the lightning tribulation. Unless he had a deity position. At this moment, in the Blood Spirit Hall, the other elders did not dare to speak carelessly. Blood Ling Huang said, "The heavenly court's deity positions have been sealed. We, the Blood Eldar, don't have a single powerhouse on the god roll. If this continues, it won't be easy for our clan to recover our former strength. At present, apart from the deity positions on the god roll, the heavenly court still has 720 positions for Zhou Tian's generals. Although obtaining this position can't make one a god, there are still many benefits. Now that the War General Talisman is scattered all over the world, you must find it and bring it back. There can't be any mistakes." "We understand." A few elders bowed and replied. They then left. When there was no one in the hall, Blood Ling Huang no longer hid his emotions. His expression was extremely ugly. He was no longer qualified to be a deity of the heavenly court. The only thing he could fight for now was the position of the heavenly court's war general. No matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. No matter how unconventional the position of a war general was, it could still be supported by the providence of the heavenly court, which was of great help to cultivation. Blood Ling Huang knew. The most important thing for him now was to break through to the 10th level of the Heaven Being Realm. Only by breaking through to the 10th level of the Heaven Being Realm would he have the hope of becoming a perfected immortal. Just as Blood Eldar was searching for the War General Talisman, the other races were also searching for the whereabouts of the War General Talisman. After all, when East City became a god, those top powerhouses already knew what kind of power the investiture of the gods possessed. Although the War General position was not the same as the deity position. However, that was a position given by the god roll after all. If they could obtain it, there would definitely be great benefits. Therefore, those emperors who did not obtain the deity position were all searching for the War General Talisman. Apart from the experts of the myriad races, the other cultivators, they were also searching for the War General Talisman. East Continent. In a canyon surrounded by mountains, there was a green jade talisman floating there quietly. And around the jade talisman, many cultivators had already gathered. "The War General Talisman can leave your name on the War General Talisman." Some experts saw the green jade talisman, and their eyes lit up. Because of the god roll. Now, everyone knew how important the War General Talisman was. There were 4 continents in the world. There were countless living beings and cultivators in the 4 continents. Among so many experts, only 720 people were qualified to enter the War General ranking. From this, it could be seen how useful the War General ranking was. Entering the ranking. Not only was it beneficial for cultivation, but it could also give the cultivators on the ranking a great reputation. Because the ranking had already appeared in the minds of all living beings. As long as someone was on the ranking, that person's name would be known by others. Even if it was only for an instant, it was enough to become famous. Therefore, being on the war general ranking was not only beneficial, but also famous. In this way, how many people in the world did not want to be on the ranking? At this moment, the war general talisman was right in front of them, but no one dared to approach it. It was not that they did not want to. It was that they could not. Although the war general talisman was only a dead object, it was still a power that was separated from the god role and had endless power. Within the range of the divine talisman, within a radius of 100 feet, ordinary cultivators had no chance of approaching it. As for the area outside the range of the divine talisman, no power was revealed. War general talisman! Lu Qinghong looked at the divine talisman in front of him with a burning gaze. If he could obtain the war general talisman, the benefits would be extraordinary. Not to mention whether the players could use it. Even if the players could not use it, he could sell it to the NPCs who needed it and obtain great benefits from it. It could be said that, in Lu Qinghong's eyes, the war general talisman was already equivalent to a supreme treasure. But the problem was, the war general talisman was right in front of him, but it was not so easy to obtain. He had seen many people get close to the war general talisman. They were either seriously injured or died on the spot. From this, it could be seen, the war general talisman was not something that anyone was qualified to obtain. To this, Lu Qinghong was vexed, but he also understood. No matter what, obtaining the war general talisman would also allow one to leave a name on the war general ranking. If a random true martial realm cultivator obtained it and left his name on the war general ranking, wouldn't that make the other cultivators who were not on the list a laughing stock? Therefore, obtaining the war general talisman depended on opportunity and also required equivalent strength. It was also at this moment. The void shook, and an expert flew over. War general talisman! A smile appeared on Qin Yuanbai's face, and then he reached out to grab the war general talisman. That coercion. It had no effect on him at all. Just as Qin Yuanbai was about to grab the war general talisman, a long sword suddenly slashed at him, forcing him to stop halfway. Then there were other experts who flew over. Elder Qin, I'm also very interested in the war general talisman. Why don't you give it to me? City Lord Nan smiled slightly and appeared in front of Qin Yuanbai. After receiving the news about the war general talisman. Thus, he rushed over without stopping to rest. As soon as he arrived, he saw that Qin Yuanbai was one step ahead of him, so he immediately took action to intercept him. In terms of friendship, City Lord Nan and Qin Yuanbai had only met a few times. Although he knew that the other party was an elder of the Qianyuan sacred ground, the problem was that there were many elders in the Qianyuan sacred ground, and he was also a subject of the Great Xiao. His status was not lower than his. Therefore, City Lord Nan was also determined to get the war general talisman. Qin Yuanbai frowned slightly and said calmly, There are only more than 100 people on the war general list. There are still many war general talismans scattered around the world. Why do you want to compete with me for this one? Treasures are rare. Elder Qin should understand. City Lord Nan shook his head slightly. Seeing this, Qin Yuanbai stopped trying to persuade him. A green longsword appeared in his hand. Even without activating it, sword chi emanated from it. With the treasure in front of us, it's meaningless for us to argue. Let's do it. Those who are stronger can naturally take the war general talisman. Okay, please enlighten me. City Lord Nan had already taken out his own magic weapon. Qin Yuanbai took a step forward. The long sword slashed in the air, and a vast sword energy burst out. As soon as he made his move, he had already used all his strength. Because Qin Yuanbai knew very well how big the gap between him and City Lord Nan was. The other party was a cultivator in the 5th level of the celestial being, close to the 6th level. In comparison, he was only a cultivator in the 4th level of the celestial being. It would still take some time to reach the 5th level of the celestial being. So, in terms of realm, Qin Yuanbai was already a level lower. Of course, this was not a reason for him to back down. The gap of one small realm. It was not a big problem at all. When he was in the 10,000 tribe battlefield, Qin Yuanbai had relied on his own strength to personally kill a peak saint expert in the 6th level of the celestial being. City Lord Nan was strong. But he was also confident that he could win. The battle had already begun. The cultivators surrounding the War General Talisman could not help but retreat at this moment. Then they shifted their gaze from the War General Talisman to the two people who were fighting. Everyone knew. If one's realm was not at the 4th level of the celestial being, there was no possibility of getting close to the War General Talisman. Right now, Qin Yuanbai and City Lord Nan had appeared. In other words, the War General Talisman would only belong to the two of them. The main premise was. However, there were no other experts that appeared. Half a day later, the two of them suddenly separated. City Lord Nan's expression did not look too good. There was a sword wound on his chest. He lowered his head to look at the wound on his body. Finally, he looked up at Qin Yuanbai, who was standing with a sword, and sighed. "I'm convinced of my defeat in this battle. I'll give the War General Talisman to Elder Qin. Goodbye." After saying that, City Lord Nan left directly. There was nothing to say. A 5th level of the celestial being lost to a 4th level of the celestial being. Moreover, he was almost completely suppressed throughout the battle. Such a gap. It made his mood very bad. "Thank you." Qin Yuanbai revealed a smile on his face. Then, he put away the green long sword and reached out to take the War General Talisman again. This time, no one stopped him. The War General Talisman was easily caught in his hand. The War General Talisman was in his hand. Qin Yuanbai felt something in his heart. He cut his fingertip and smeared a drop of blood on the War General Talisman. Instantly, after the blood stained the War General Talisman, the War General Talisman melted in his hand bit by bit. At the same time, a surge of power came from the underworld. Qin Yuanbai only felt his body tremble slightly. In the next moment, he had already broken through to the 5th level of the celestial being. Immediately after, his name had already appeared on the War General ranking. Ha! Qin Yuanbai was in a good mood. Then, he looked at a player in the crowd, casually threw a divine weapon over, and immediately flew away. "This is your reward." That player saw this. He hurriedly grabbed the divine weapon and then directly left the place without any hesitation. A message was delivered. He received a divine weapon that was not weaker than a Taoist artifact. For this player, it was equivalent to giving him a free reward. Seeing this scene, many players felt sour in their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. Not everyone could immediately notify others after receiving the news of the War General Talisman. After all, it was not so easy to send a message to the elders of the Qianyuan sacred ground. One needed to find a way. "Elder Qin has entered the War General ranking." In the Qianyuan sacred ground, all the elders received the news immediately. "Now that he has entered the War General ranking, I'm afraid that everyone in the 4 continents knows Qin Yuanbai," Fang Xinglan said with some jealousy. He also wanted to leave his name on the War General ranking. But some things could not be done just because one wanted to. There were many War General Talismans. However, the 4 continents were vast and boundless. More than 700 War General Talismans were scattered between heaven and earth. It was extremely difficult to find one of them. Fan Xinglan could not figure it out. Why was Qin Yuanbai so lucky to get the War General Talisman? In the astral wind layer, Qin Shujian was still forging the heavenly palace. But compared with forging the investiture of the gods, the requirements of the heavenly palace were much lower. Therefore, in just a month, the heavenly palace had begun to take shape. In the sky, naturally, there was a thunder tribulation. In fact, Not only did the lightning tribulation exist beneath the heaven and earth squall, it could also condense above the heaven and earth squall. Because the thunder tribulation was the embodiment of the laws of heaven and earth. Even if there were cultivators hiding underground, the thunder tribulation could find them. Rumble! The thunder tribulation roared. It constantly draped over the heavenly palace. At this time, Qin Shujian had already dispersed the true sun fire. He stood silently to the side, watching the heavenly palace withstand the thunder tribulation. He did not help. He allowed the heavenly palace to bear the power of the thunder tribulation. 7 days. The thunder tribulation suddenly disappeared. A palace had already appeared in the astral wind. Then, Qin Shujian formed hand seals with both hands and inlaid array patterns into the heavenly palace, making it steadily stay in the astral wind layer and not fall to the ground below. At this moment, no matter how the astral wind blew, it could not do anything to the heavenly palace. Next, Qin Shujian took out the rest of the materials and used the fire-controlling art to draw the sun's primordial fire to start a new round of forging. The heavenly palace was not a simple palace. In fact, the heavenly palace was a whole. It was only when many palaces were combined together that it was considered a complete heavenly palace. According to the memories of the Third Era, Qin Shujian condensed the palaces one by one and then added array patterns, making them steadily stay in the astral wind layer. 2 months. In the astral wind layer, dozens of palaces had already appeared. Every palace stayed within the astral winds, moving slowly as the astral winds blew. But the flow trajectory of the palaces was fixed. At the center of all the palaces, it was the main palace of the heavenly palace that Qin Shujian had originally built. At this moment, all the palaces had been condensed. The array that was added on top of the palaces was finally completely activated. Boom! A vast array was formed with all the palaces as its foundation. Its mighty aura spread out completely, with the heavenly palace as the center. It had a radius of 10,000 miles. All the astral wind that blew over was suppressed. The astral wind that was enough to dissipate the flesh and bones of a half-immortal expert was useless in front of the heavenly palace. At this point, the heavenly palace was officially formed. When the heavenly palace was formed, all the experts who had obtained the deity position felt something at this time, and raised their heads to look at the sky at the same time. There was clearly nothing there, but they knew very well. The heavenly palace. Where did it exist? P.S. Support the original version, Chidian Chinese Network, app, Chidian Book S. I am decent. Chapter 719. Qianyuan's Sacred Ground. After leaving the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian returned here. Ever since the opening of the 10,000 clan battlefield, all the elders, they all gathered in Qianyuan Hall once again. At this moment, there were still a large number of cultivators gathered in front of the human emperor's palace. Although Qin Shujian had already given up the throne of the human emperor, the palace in front of them no longer lived up to its name. However, this was still the sacred ground in everyone's mind. Although Qin Shujian was not the human emperor, he had been promoted to the emperor of heaven. Here, it was even more significant. In Qianyuan Hall, many elders took their seats. Although many celestials had been born in the Qianyuan sacred ground, only the original elders were really qualified to participate in the meeting in Qianyuan Hall. Apart from that, the remaining elders were not qualified to enter here. The void shook slightly. On the main seat, a person appeared out of thin air. When Qin Yuanbai and the others saw this, they immediately stood up and saluted. "Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! Sit down," Qin Shujian said lightly. Qin Yuanbai and the others said in unison, "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven!" After that, they sat down again. Starting from Qin Yuanbai, Qin Shujian's gaze swept over all the elders present. The opening of the 10,000 clan battlefield. It also allowed the elders of the Qianyuan sacred ground to gain a lot of benefits. Qin Yuanbai was strong. At this time, he was already in the 5th tier of the celestial being realm. The weaker ones, like Fang Xinglan and the others, were already in the 3rd tier of the celestial being realm. Among them, Fang Xinglan was an array master in the 2nd realm. In comparison, he was much stronger than when the Qianyuan sacred ground was first established. You should be very clear about the establishment of the heavenly court and the investiture of the emperors, Qin Shujian said slowly. At this moment, his body was faintly emitting a powerful aura. In front of him, Qin Yuanbai and the others did not dare to be presumptuous. Reporting to the heavenly emperor, we already know about this matter. I am now the emperor of heaven. It is no longer appropriate for me to be the sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, Qin Shujian said. Hearing this, everyone else's body trembled slightly. They naturally understood the meaning behind Qin Shujian's words. He was no longer suitable for the position of sacred master. In other words, perhaps there would be a new sacred lord in the Qianyuan sacred ground. Thinking of this, Qin Yuanbai and the others were secretly excited. If Qin Shujian was no longer the sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, the sacred ground would not be able to compete with the great Zhao's sacred ground. But even so, the Qianyuan sacred ground was also the most powerful force in the human race after the great Zhao Empire. Even if it was the great Zhao, they did not dare to be too presumptuous in front of the Qianyuan sacred ground. Because no matter what, the Emperor of Heaven in front of him was still the founder of the Qianyuan sacred ground. They didn't give the Holy Land any face. This was equivalent to disrespecting the Emperor of Heaven. Therefore, if they could become the sacred lord of the sacred ground, they would at least have a supreme status. No one responded, but quietly waited for the follow-up. Qin Shujian said, "However, the position of the sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground is not something that ordinary people can hold. To hold the position of sacred lord, one must at least be in the 10th level of the celestial being realm. In the sacred ground, the strongest person is only in the 4th level of the celestial being realm, which is far from being qualified to hold the position of sacred lord. Therefore, I have decided to set up 2 more deputy positions under the sacred lord." Speaking of this, Qin Shujian looked down and said lightly, "Qin Yuanbai Fang Xinglan, you two are the strongest people in the sacred ground. In the past, you also made a lot of contributions in the myriad clan battlefield. Today, the 2 of you will be the deputy sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground and maintain the order of the sacred ground. Don't ruin my efforts. We will obey the orders of the Emperor of Heaven." Qin Yuanbai and Fang Xinglan both stood up and saluted at the same time. Although they could not hold the position of sacred lord, they were already satisfied to be able to become deputy sacred lords. The only regret was, there was not only one deputy sacred lord, but there were 2. However, the 2 of them knew in their hearts. The 2 deputy sacred lords were only there to check and balance each other, so that no one could dominate. Qin Shujian said, "All the internal and external affairs of the sacred ground can be handled by the deputy sacred lords. In the future, if anyone can break through the 10th level of the celestial being realm and has both talent and integrity, he can become the new sacred lord of the sacred ground. In addition, the elders also have the right to impeach. If more than 80% of the elders in the sacred ground impeach one person, he can be removed from the position of deputy sacred lord." The elders that Qin Shujian mentioned, not only the elders in the Qianyuan Hall, but also those who had the title of elder but could not enter the Qianyuan Hall. These people, they were also counted as elders. Hearing this, Qin Yuanbai and Fang Xinglan's faces were also solemn, and the joy in their hearts decreased a little. The elders had the right to impeach. That proved that the position of deputy sacred lord was not really stable. Unless one day, if they could sit in the position of sacred lord, there would be less trouble. But before that, the authority of a deputy sacred lord was much less than that of a real sacred lord. "We will do our best to maintain the order in the sacred ground. We will not let the Emperor of Heaven down," Qin Yuanbai replied in a deep voice. "That would be best. Qin Shijian nodded slightly and then said, "You guys should be mentally prepared. It won't be long before the great wide world will no longer be peaceful. The strength of the celestial being is indeed top-notch in the past. But in the future, it won't be of much use. In the future calamity, not to mention the celestial being, even the weaker true immortals will find it difficult to survive. So for the time being, I hope you all take care of yourselves and don't slack off on the path of cultivation." Qin Shijian's words were a little heavy. The atmosphere in the Qianyuan Hall also became solemn. The celestial being could not help. Ordinary true immortals would also find it difficult to survive. In this way, Qin Yuanbai and the others felt great pressure. Fang Xinglan said, "What does the Emperor of Heaven mean by what he said? The demons of the void and the demon abyss are all calamities that the great wide world is about to face. Instead of being beaten passively, it's better to take the initiative to attack. You guys just have to be prepared." Qin Shijian shook his head. After saying that, he had already disappeared from the Qianyuan Hall. In the hall, only the crowd was left in deep thought. Qin Shijian's words made them realize something. That was, the war was not far away. Qin Yuanbai's expression was solemn. The Emperor of Heaven has already made his intentions clear. Perhaps it won't be long before the Heavenly Court launches a large-scale attack on the demons of the void. Only by solving the hidden dangers of the void can we face the demon abyss with peace of mind. Now, the demons of the void were attacking the great wide world all the time. It was understandable that the Heavenly Court wanted to attack the demons of the void. If they did not deal with them, when the demon abyss attacked, the Heavenly Court might have to face a pincer attack from both sides. Therefore, attacking the nefarious devil clan in the void was inevitable. Qin Yuanbai did not think much about these things at first. However, since Qin Shijian had already said it out loud, he naturally understood what was going on. "The world is not peaceful," Cui Huai sighed. The only peaceful time in the world was probably the time when the great Zhao established the eastern continent. The mutants descended, and the vassals rebelled. There were already signs of chaos in the world. Later, from the moment the human race walked out of the eastern continent, there was no longer much peace. The world of great battles. The beginning of the great calamity. That was probably it. The others also had solemn expressions. No one was sure that they could safely survive the great calamity. Even if the great calamity had not officially begun, the number of experts who had fallen was already innumerable. The 10,000 races battlefield opened. Tens of thousands of celestial beings had fallen there. Even perfected immortals, dozens of them had also fallen in the 4 great continents. In the face of such a calamity, no one had much confidence that they could survive it. After giving Qin Yuanbai and the others some pressure, Qin Shijian floated to his original courtyard. Niodali was still sleeping outside. When he came in, he did not cause any commotion, so he naturally did not wake the other party up. In the courtyard, Qin Shijian put his hands behind his back and looked at everything in front of him. In the end, he did not take it away. "There are some thoughts in using the courtyard. Rather than taking it to the heavenly palace, it is better to leave it here and avoid so much trouble." He shook his head. There was no need to take the courtyard away. He might as well leave it here. It might be of some use in the future. Subsequently, Qin Shijian's divine sense moved slightly, and soon someone came over. "Disciple greets master." Ningbo bowed. Qin Shijian looked at the disciple in front of him and said, "How is your cultivation of the Guyuan ancestral canon? It has been completely transformed. It should not be long before I can enter the middle stage of the divine martial realm." Ningbo replied truthfully. He walked the path of deriving heaven and earth. Therefore, he transformed his original cultivation technique into the Guyuan ancestral canon. In a few months, he had completed the transformation of the cultivation technique, and was able to improve on the original foundation. Such talent could already be described as outstanding. Qin Shijian nodded slightly. "Divine martial realm is just the beginning. After you enter the heavenly realm, the effects of the Guiyuan ancestral canon will gradually manifest. With your current realm, there is no need to stay in the Qian Yuan realm. You can travel around and search for enough heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Because after breaking through to the heavenly realm, every small breakthrough will require a huge amount of resources. Disciple will remember Master's teachings. In addition, Red Lotus of Purgation, how is your cultivation? Qin Shujian asked. He gave her the complete version of the Guiyuan ancestral canon. Naturally, it included the Red Lotus of Purgation. Ningbo said. The Red Lotus of Purgation is almost completed. The Red Lotus of Purgation can refine everything in the world, but there is one thing you need to pay attention to. For the time being, you can't use it on the mutants. In addition, you can't use it on the humans. As for the outsiders, you need to pay attention to your actions. Don't leave any evidence behind. Qin Shujian looked at him and said meaningfully. Disciple understands. Ningbo's heart skipped a beat. He immediately lowered his head and said, how could he not understand his master's meaning when he had already spoken to this extent? Outsiders could refine it. But the premise was that no one knew. Or rather, even if others knew, no evidence would be left behind. His master was now the Emperor of Heaven, an existence that ruled all races. Similarly, in some matters, he couldn't be too biased. If he couldn't treat everyone equally, how could he be qualified to become the Emperor of Heaven that ruled all races? Even if he treated everyone equally on the surface, it was also necessary. However, after cultivating the Red Lotus of Purgation, Ningbo had never used it, so he didn't know much about this method. I will live in the heavenly palace in the future. If there is anything, you can send a message. I'm too lazy to take this courtyard away. Just leave it here. When you have time, come back and clean it up. Don't let it be stained with dust. As for the things inside, you can do whatever you want with them. Qin Shujian said calmly. If he didn't take the courtyard away, then someone needed to take care of it. No matter what, Ningbo was his only disciple, so he had to leave something for him. Otherwise, after being apprenticed for so many years, not only did he not give him any guidance, he didn't even give him a few treasures. It couldn't be justified. So, Qin Shujian simply left the courtyard to Ningbo. After saying that, Qin Shujian walked out of the courtyard and gently kicked Miao Dali with his horn. Finally, the sleeping green bull woke up. Qin, Emperor of Heaven! Miao Dali instinctively wanted to say Emperor Qin, but immediately realized something and hurriedly changed his words. Qin Shujian sat sideways on the bull's back and gently tapped the bull's head with his folding fan. Go to the Vermilion Bird Tribe's territory. Yes. Miao Dali didn't say much and stepped into the air to leave. The Vermilion Bird Tribe's territory. It was in the human territory. After breaking through to the 9th level of the celestial being, Miao Dali's flying speed had increased. In just a short while, he arrived in the sky above the Vermilion Bird Tribe's territory. Qin Shujian said indifferently, Fire Sage, come quickly! His voice was ethereal. Without alerting the other Vermilion Bird Tribe cultivators, it directly entered Fire Sage's ears. Fire Sage, who was in seclusion, was suddenly awakened. Soon, she realized what had happened and immediately left her seclusion and appeared in front of Qin Shujian. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! Take care of the Vermilion Bird Tribe's affairs, then follow me to the Heavenly Palace. Yes! Fire Sage nodded excitedly. Soon, she sent a message to the elders of the Vermilion Bird Tribe. After briefly explaining the matter, she followed Qin Shujian to the Heavenly Palace. To be able to go to the Heavenly Palace, for Fire Sage, it was an unparalleled opportunity. The current Qin Shujian was no longer as simple as the human emperor of the past. He was the Emperor of Heaven who ruled all races. The other party's strength. He could be called the number one person of all races. In comparison, Fire Sage herself was still in the 8th level of the celestial being realm. She was far from the Emperor of Heaven in front of her. She couldn't believe it no matter what. A few years ago, she had fought with Qin Shujian and didn't die. Now that she was able to enter the heavenly palace and follow the Emperor of Heaven, the opportunity she had was unimaginable. In the dark, Fire Sage also had some premonitions. Entering the heavenly palace this time might bring her a great turnaround. So, that was the reason why the Vermilion Bird Clan's clan chief had followed him without hesitation. Because in her heart, there was no thought of refusing at all. Green Neo was flying in the air. Fire Sage followed behind. When they came close to the astral wind layer, Qin Shujian opened the original human Emperor fan, which had now been renamed the Emperor of Heaven fan, and waved it forward. Boom! The astral wind layer was torn apart. Neo Dali understood and directly flew into the air. The astral wind layer! Fire Sage saw the crack in the sky, and her pretty face turned pale. She never expected. The heavenly palace existed in the astral wind layer. In the Vermilion Bird tribe's inheritance, it had already recorded the terror of the astral wind layer. It was a dangerous place for cultivators below the true immortal realm. Without condensing an immortal body, one didn't have the qualifications to enter the astral wind layer. Because once one entered it, they would be torn apart by the astral wind. Fire Sage herself was only in the 8th level of the celestial being realm. There was still a long way to go before she could become a true immortal. Although she didn't enter it. But just from the opening, she could already feel a terrifying threat. Just as Holy Fire was hesitating, Green Neo had already entered it. Seeing this, Fire Sage gritted her teeth and could only harden her heart and barge in. She couldn't decide. She would definitely be in chaos. Since she had already come here, there was no reason to retreat midway. If she couldn't enter the astral wind layer, even if she could save her life, she would definitely lose a great opportunity. Since that was the case, it was better to take a gamble. After making up her mind, Fire Sage had already followed closely behind Qin Shujian and headed towards the astral wind layer. Just as they entered the astral wind layer, the temperature suddenly rose a lot. In the sky above their heads, there was a big sun hanging in the sky. The scorching true fire of the sun made the entire astral wind layer seem to be in flames. It was just at this temperature. It didn't make Fire Sage feel threatened. Instead, there was a kind of warm comfort. Even the power contained in her body was aroused a little. The danger she had expected did not come. At this time, Fire Sage finally had the time to look around. What entered her eyes? She saw that the palaces were scattered everywhere. All the palaces seemed to be held up by an invisible hand. They stopped there steadily and did not fall to the ground below. The palaces were big and small. However, each of the palaces emitted a powerful aura. And in the center of all the palaces, there was a huge palace. The moment she saw the palace, Fire Sage felt an endless pressure. Heavenly Palace! A name naturally appeared in her mind. This was the Heavenly Palace, the place where the Heavenly Court was located. Then, Fire Sage looked outside the palace. There was a heaven and earth astral wind raging there. Wind! It should have been invisible and colorless. But here, the heaven and earth astral wind had color. She didn't take a closer look. Fire Sage immediately followed behind Qin Shujian and entered the heavenly palace. Very big. Very big. This was Fire Sage's first feeling after entering the heavenly palace. Originally, from the outside, the heavenly palace was already not small. However, when she really walked in, she realized that the heavenly palace was many times larger than she had expected. With her knowledge, she also knew that this was because of the spatial array inside the heavenly palace. The heavenly palace is divided into the outer palace and the inner palace. You two stay here in the outer palace. Also, don't wander around. This place is covered by the array, so we don't need to fear the power of the sun and moon, as well as the heaven and earth astral wind. However, if you leave the range of the array, you will be in danger of dying. Qin Shujian had already dismounted from the ox's back. He looked at the two calmly. At this time, Yodali also withdrew his true form and turned into a big man with 2 horns on his head. Also, Qin Shujian paused, then looked at Fire Sage and said, "Aside from the depths of the Sea of Death, this is the place closest to the sun. The Vermilion Bird clan has an innate divine fire and should be a powerful clan. However, you haven't completely mastered your innate divine fire and can't use much of its power. Now that you're in the Heavenly Palace, you can take this opportunity to cultivate your innate divine fire." The main purpose of bringing Fire Sage into the Heavenly Palace. Qin Shujian wanted her to cultivate her innate divine fire. This was a type of divine fire that was on par with the true fire of the sun, and one of the 2 most powerful divine fires in the world. Although not every vermilion bird could cultivate the connate divine fire, it was still a rare opportunity. Still, as the leader of the Vermilion Bird clan, Fire Sage was their last hope. To a certain extent, the true fire of the sun shared the same origin as the innate divine fire. Therefore, if Fire Sage cultivated here, there was a very high chance that he would be able to master his innate divine fire. Fire Sage shed tears of gratitude. "Your subordinate will definitely cultivate my innate divine fire and not disappoint the Emperor of Heaven." Go on." Qin Shujian waved his hand, then entered the inner palace. As for Nyodali and Fire Sage, he didn't pay them any more attention. All he needed to do was bring them into the Heavenly Palace. As for everything else, he'd let them deal with it themselves. The Heavenly Palace was so large, after all. Raising a vermilion bird and a cow wouldn't take up much space. After entering the inner palace, the scenery was completely different from the outer palace. The so-called outer palace was actually the equivalent of an open-air plaza. From there, one could directly see the skies. As for what was inside the inner palace, there were 8 pillars that supported the entire palace. Apart from that, the palace was extremely spacious. There was only a row of white jade stairs in the middle, and at the end of the white jade stairs was a golden table and chair. He steadily walked up the white jade stairs. Qin Shujian sat down on the chair. Then, he took out the investiture of the gods from his sea of consciousness, as well as the imperial jade seal formed by the fate of all races. The investiture of the gods was placed on the left side of the table. The imperial jade seal was placed on the right side of the table. The moment the imperial jade seal fell, the entire heavenly palace shook violently a few times, causing Nyodali and Fire Sage's expressions to change drastically. They almost thought that there was a problem with the array. Then, they saw a rich fate spread out from the imperial jade seal. Like yellow clouds, the fate overflowed from the inner palace and quickly occupied the entire heavenly palace. The astral wind layer that originally only existed in white was now filled with other colors. The yellow clouds were embellished. It made the many palaces look even more sacred. Inside the inner palace, after Qin Shujian put down the things, he placed his hands on the armrests on both sides. He looked at the empty palace below with a faint smile on his face. "Although it's a lot worse, it still looks a little like it." The heavenly palace in front of him. It was built based on the heavenly palace in the memory of the Third Era. The difference was, in the past, there were gods in the heavenly palace. Now, only he, the Emperor of Heaven, was here in the heavenly palace. There was also a cow and a vermilion bird outside. Was the heavenly palace of the ancient times like this? Qin Shujian asked. After that, Godslayer, who had been silent for a long time in his sea of consciousness, also answered at this time. The heavenly palace of the ancient times did not exist in the astral wind layer. It only existed in the void. As for the investiture of gods like the Emperor of Heaven, it has never appeared before. It was also the heavenly palace. In Godslayer's eyes, the heavenly palace in front of him was much more imposing than the heavenly palace of the ancient times. If there was a difference, it was probably that there was no breath of life in the heavenly palace now, and it seemed too lonely. Apart from that, there were no other problems. As for the investiture of gods, to be honest, Godslayer had never heard of it at all. Until a while ago, when Qin Shijian really made a move to investiture of gods, he saw that mysterious method. To put it bluntly, if the Emperor of Heaven in the ancient times had the method to investiture of gods, the strength of the heavenly palace would definitely have increased greatly. When facing the great calamity of the demon abyss, it might not have failed. However, there were no ifs in anything. The heavenly palace of the ancient times had been defeated. However, in Godslayer's view, now that the heavenly palace was under the control of Qin Shijian, there was a great chance that it could contend against the demon abyss. The method to investiture of gods has always existed, it's just that you don't know about it. Qin Shijian shook his head slightly. He looked at the empty hall and said with a faint smile, "The heaven and earth astral wind layer is the closest place to the specific world, and also the beginning of the projection of the stars in the outer realm into the vast thousand realms. Cultivating here will be faster than in other places. And because the heaven and earth astral wind layer is considered one of the ends of the world, the power of the rules here is the most obvious. As the existence that rules over the tens of thousands of races, the heavenly palace should exist in such a place." In Qin Shijian's memory, the heavenly palace of any era existed in such a place. Not only did it indicate the supreme status of the heavenly palace, but also because one could draw on the power of the stars to cultivate here, which was much faster than simply absorbing spirit qi to cultivate. In the ancient times, it was wrong for the heavenly palace to not be in the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Regarding this, Qin Shijian didn't care too much. After all, the ancient Emperor of Heaven was only a half-step Dao fruit. How much could he know? "Senior, how far are you from the tribulation?" The tribulation he was talking about was Zhu Bing's tribulation. Godslayer pondered for a moment and said, "The Emperor of Heaven killed many perfected immortals before. In addition to my foundation over the years, I've reached the peak of the foretribulation Zhu Bing. If I kill a few more perfected immortals, I'll be able to transcend the tribulation naturally. Even now, I can take the initiative to draw the thunder tribulation down, but the chance of transcending the tribulation is not high. The more power he accumulated, the higher the chance of successfully transcending the tribulation. If he forcefully transcended the tribulation without accumulating enough power, the possibility of failure was very high. Even though Godslayer had existed for millions of years, he didn't dare to take the risk. Because of Zhu Bing's thunder tribulation. It was really too powerful. Killing a few more perfected immortals will be troublesome. Qin Shijian frowned slightly. Now that the 4 continents had been unified, although there were many perfected immortals, it was impossible to randomly pick a few out to kill. However, if Zhu Bing didn't transcend the tribulation, when the time came, he would start to transcend the tribulation after killing a few perfected immortal void demons. It would be disadvantageous to the battle. Godslayer said, "The Emperor of Heaven doesn't know that there are perfected immortal dire beasts in the Sea of Death. If I can enter it, I'll be able to accumulate enough power to transcend the tribulation. However, perfected immortal dire beasts mostly live in the depths of the Sea of Death. If I recklessly enter, I'm afraid I'll be in great danger. The things in the depths of the Sea of Death are indeed troublesome." Qin Shijian nodded. Half-step Dao fruit was troublesome enough. At least with his current strength, he was still far from being able to deal with them. But as Xiao Chengfeng said, the Sea of Death is a seal. Even if he's a half-step Dao fruit existence, he can't possibly break the seal. There's no need to worry too much. Before obtaining the memories of the Third Era, Qin Shijian didn't know much about the Sea of Death. However, after obtaining the memories, when he looked at the Sea of Death again, he could see many things. It was just as Xiao Chengfeng had said. The Sea of Death was actually a huge seal. The moment he became the Emperor of Heaven, Qin Shijian's spiritual force had actually merged with heaven and earth for a short time. That moment of merging allowed him to have a panoramic view of the entire major kiliacosm. In the depths of the Sea of Death, in the depths of the heaven abyss, there were universal chains that imprisoned and sealed the half-step Dao fruit existences inside. This was also the reason why they had been unable to leave the 2 perilous lands. Universal chains. This was a force formed by the heaven-earth law and the most powerful technique of heaven and earth. It was different from the True Dominion's universal sky lock. The True Dominion's universal sky lock was merely a weak manifestation of the nomological force. However, the universal chains in the two places were the true manifestation of the nomological force. Without reaching the Tao fruit realm, it was impossible to break free from the seal. When the time comes, I will naturally bring you to the sea of death. At that time, you will be able to find the opportunity to undergo the heavenly tribulation. Although 4 tribulation ancestral armaments are very powerful, they will not be enough for the later heavenly tribulations, Qin Shujian said. Then, he picked up the investiture of the gods on the table and sent out the corresponding message. Middle Prefecture Imperial City, Xi'an was cultivating. In his sea of consciousness, a square seal suddenly vibrated. It was something formed by the power of the investiture of the gods after he had become the Zhou Tian constellation. That seal, it symbolized the status of the Zhou Tian constellation. Similarly, it was also a bridge to communicate with the investiture of the gods. Now that the seal was vibrating, Xiang immediately knew what had happened. After walking out of seclusion, he did not head to the heavenly court immediately. Instead, he went to Emperor Zhao's palace. Father, the Emperor of Heaven has summoned the Zhou Tian constellation to the heavenly court. Have you received the news? Xiang went straight to the point the moment he saw Emperor Zhao. Summon the Zhou Tian constellation to the heavenly court. Emperor Zhao shook his head and said calmly, Ben Wang did not receive the news. Since the Emperor of Heaven has already sent a message, you can go over. Then I will take my leave first. Xiang cupped his hands slightly and turned to leave. The Zhao Emperor looked at his departing figure and frowned slightly. As for the location of the heavenly court, as Emperor Zhongyuan, he had never been there personally. Although Emperor Zhao could know where the heavenly court was through the investiture of the gods, he could not go there without Qin Shujian's summons. At this time, the heavenly court suddenly sent a message and summoned the Zhou Tian constellation. It was inevitable that people would think too much. Not long after, Emperor Zhao got rid of the distracting thoughts in his heart. The heavenly court had been established. There were many things that he could not think about anymore. To put it bluntly, he was only the human emperor. When the heavenly court did not exist, the human emperor's position was naturally supreme. The emperors of the other races could at most be on equal footing with the human emperor's position. There was no possibility of them being superior. But it was different now. With the heavenly court, the emperors of the other races had to be lowered. Especially after the investiture of the gods. It also established the supreme position of the Emperor of Heaven. So, Emperor Zhao no longer referred to himself as emperor. Instead, he referred to himself as Ben Wang. When Xiang was heading to the heavenly court, in the other races, all the emperors who were listed in the Zhou Tian constellation deity position were heading towards the heavenly court at this time. Soon, Xiang arrived below the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Before he could do anything, the seal floating in his mind had already flown out and opened a passage under the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Seeing this, Xiang reached out and grabbed the seal, then stepped into the passage. In an instant, the surrounding scene changed. This is the heavenly court. Looking at the many palaces floating in the air in front of him and thousands of yellow clouds hanging down, Xi Yang's heart trembled slightly. As one of the gods of the heavenly court, he knew. What he saw in front of him was the location of the heavenly court. It was also at this time, another passage opened up. Soon after, the emperors walked out from inside. Brother Yang! So it's the Black Emperor! Seeing the person who came, Xi Yang smiled and cupped his hands. He knew the Black Emperor. The Black Emperor naturally knew him too. At this moment, the Black Emperor had already broken through to the true immortal realm. Although he was on the same level as the Zhao Emperor, he was also on the same level as Xi Yang. Because they were both true immortals, there was no such thing as seniority. At most, they would talk about their own things. The Black Emperor smiled and said, The Emperor of Heaven has summoned us here this time. I wonder why. Brother Yang is also from the human clan. Do you have any news? No, I'm the same as the Black Emperor. I rushed over after receiving the message. Shi Yang shook his head. He was also confused. Now that we have arrived at the heavenly court, and the heavenly palace is right in front of us, we will go in and meet the Emperor of Heaven. Naturally, we will know everything. That's true. The Black Emperor nodded and said with a smile. Then, the two of them went together. The entire heavenly court. There were many palaces. Each palace did not seem to be connected to the other palaces. However, between the palaces, there was a faint yellow cloud paving the way. Walking on it was no different from walking on flat ground. Ben Wang has never seen such a scene before in his life. The Black Emperor sighed. He had never seen what the ancient heavenly court looked like, but the heavenly court in front of him was already filled with surprise. Shi Yang did not say anything at the side. But from the expression on his face, it was not much different. He had never thought about it before. There would be someone who dared to open up a realm in the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Moreover, they would not be afraid of the invasion of the heaven and earth astral wind layer, nor would they be afraid of the influence of the great Yin and great Yang energies. Shi Yang raised his head and looked up. In the past, the sun was only the size of a fist from below. Now, it almost occupied his entire line of sight. But even so close, he wasn't affected too much either. The two of them stepped on the yellow clouds and arrived in front of the heavenly palace in the middle. A green ox was crawling and sleeping soundly in front of the outer hall. For Nyodali, it was the same no matter where he slept. Even if there was a very big sun in the sky above his head, it would not affect him at all. Until Shi Yang and the Black Emperor stepped into the heavenly palace. The green ox's snoring stopped for a moment, and then slowly opened its eyes. P.S. I beg for monthly votes. Chapter 720. Brother Nyo. Shi Yang thought for a moment, then cupped his hands and said. He didn't know how to address Nyo Dali. But when he thought about how the other party was the mount of the Emperor of Heaven, his status was there, so he treated him as a peer. The Black Emperor at the side also cupped his hands. Nyo Dali was too lazy to get up and directly lay on the ground, looking weak. You're here, the Emperor of Heaven is inside, you can just go in. Thank you. The two of them cupped their hands again and walked towards the inner hall. At this moment, a vermilion bird soared into the sky, flying above the heavenly palace, bathed in the true fire of the sun. The Black Emperor and Shi Yang only took a simple glance and recognized the identity of the vermilion bird. Fire Saint. Even though all of the vermilion birds looked pretty much the same from the outside, but as an expert, they had never relied on appearance to distinguish a person, but on aura. The powerful aura unique to Fire Saint was something that other vermilion birds did not have. Therefore, it wasn't difficult to recognize holy fire. After retracting his gaze, the two of them entered the inner hall. The inner hall was wide. There was clearly nothing there, but the moment they entered, there was an endless pressure coming from all directions. Shi Yang and the Black Emperor's hearts tightened. Then they looked at Qin Shuyan, bowed, and said, Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! You guys can wait at the side. Qin Shuyan said casually with a light hum. Seeing this, the two of them stood in the hall. Not long after, the other experts with divine positions arrived one after another. 365 Zhou Tian Constellation. There were a total of 365 experts. Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! The gods bowed. Qin Shujian seemed to have seen a scene from the past, but he quickly came back to his senses. Everyone rise! Thank you, Emperor of Heaven! The gods stood up and looked at Qin Shujian with doubt in their eyes. From the moment they entered the heavenly court, they were quite surprised. After all, no one had ever dared to establish a heavenly court and a heavenly palace in the astral winds. Among the gods present, None of them entered the astral wind layer for the first time, which naturally aroused a lot of curiosity. However, what they were more concerned about was the purpose of Qin Shujian gathering the Zhou Tian constellation. Qin Shujian said, "There are many stars in the void outside the star field. 365 main stars are the main stars. They have been there since the void outside the star field appeared. The stars contain boundless energy. Occasionally, the energy would overflow and be projected onto the heaven and earth barrier. Then, it would seep into the greater thousand world and be used by many living beings for cultivation." Compared to spiritual energy, the power of the stars in the heavens is more suitable for cultivators to cultivate. In the heavenly palace, only Qin Shujian's voice reverberated in the air. The other gods lowered their hands and listened attentively. He was listed on the investiture of the gods. They had no chance of resisting. Since he had enjoyed the benefits of the investiture of the gods, he had no choice but to pay the corresponding price. Regarding this, the gods didn't care too much. After all, Qin Shujian was powerful. Regardless of whether he had the investiture of the gods or not, he could easily kill them. In that case, there was no other problem. Qin Shujian said, "The reason why the heavenly court established the 365 Zhou Tian constellation is related to the 365 main stars in the void outside the star field. Today, I gathered you here for a very simple purpose. You have been conferred the position of gods and enjoyed the providence of heaven and earth. Seeing this, you should naturally serve heaven and earth. Therefore, I want you to draw the power of the stars in the heavens and illuminate the 4 continents, so that all living beings can absorb the power of the stars to cultivate and produce enough experts as soon as possible. Draw the stars in the heavens! Illuminate the 4 continents!" The hearts of the gods trembled wildly. What Qin Shujian said was very unfamiliar to them, because no expert had ever tried to draw the power of the stars in the heavens. The reason was simple. It was because the stars in the heavens existed in the void outside the star field. There was a distance between heaven and earth. In addition, there was a barrier between heaven and earth. It was impossible to draw the power of the stars. Except for the races born from the power of the stars like the Star Clan, who could innately borrow some of the power of the stars. The other races. There was basically no way. Xiang cupped his hands and said, "Emperor of Heaven, the stars in the heavens exist in the void outside the star field. How can we draw the power of the stars down? Your deity positions are compatible with the stars in the heavens. Your mind is connected to the deity position's seal, and you can draw the power of the stars down." Qin Shujian said calmly. Deity position! It was an existence conferred by the heavenly court, but it also came from heaven and earth. After all, to a certain extent, the heavenly court was equivalent to an organization that maintained the order of heaven and earth. As the Emperor of Heaven, he had many privileges. Therefore, the deity position was actually the power that Qin Shujian absorbed from heaven and earth in his identity as the Emperor of Heaven and finally condensed into a deity position. Or else, investiture of the gods was a joke. There must be a corresponding method to condense the corresponding deity position. This was also the reason why the ancient heavenly court did not become a deity. Hearing this, with a thought, Xian had already taken out the seal in his mind. The others, they were all doing the same thing. It was just that after taking out the seal, they did not know how to draw the power of the stars in the heavens. Everyone looked at each other and saw a puzzled look in each other's eyes. Seeing this, Qin Shujian waved his hand, and countless streams of light shot out and instantly escaped into the minds of the gods. The gods trembled slightly and instinctively closed their eyes. The next moment, when they opened their eyes, they already knew how to draw the power of the stars in the heavens. Qin Shujian said in a clear voice, "In the heavenly court, besides the heavenly palace, there are other palaces. In the future you will live in the heavenly court and control the power of the stars in the heavens to illuminate the 4 continents. As the guides of the stars in the heavens, you will also be able to gain great benefits from it. We will obey your orders. Even without Qin Shijian's explanation, they could understand the benefits of borrowing the power of the stars to cultivate. Although after breaking through to the true immortal realm, one would mainly walk the laws of heaven and earth. However, true immortals could still absorb energy to temper their bodies. The more powerful the true immortal. Other than the powerful rules, his physique was also extremely powerful. Soon, the gods left the heavenly palace and saw the many palaces surrounding the heavenly palace. There were many palaces. Roughly looking over, there were hundreds of them. The Black Emperor said. Excluding the heavenly palace, there are a total of 374 palaces in the heavenly court. They should be the corresponding deity positions of the 5 great imperial emperors, the 4 great war gods, and the 365 Zhou Tian constellations. Which hall does Brother Yang plan to stay in? At the end of his sentence, the Black Emperor turned his head to look at Shi Yang. There weren't many people he was familiar with among the gods. Shi Yang was from the human clan, so he was the most familiar with him. As for the earthly emperor's words, in fact, he was also given the title of Zhou Tian constellation. However, the Black Emperor didn't want to pay attention to this person who had betrayed him, including the Dog Emperor. It was the same. However, the other party was now one of the 5 great imperial emperors. His position was higher than his, so the Black Emperor didn't express his emotions. That one! Shi Yang stretched out his hand and pointed at the closest hall to the heavenly palace. Seeing this, the Black Emperor nodded and pointed at a nearby hall. Since Brother Yang has chosen this place, then Ben Huang will also take this place. As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them stepped on yellow clouds and walked towards the 2 halls. However, just as they stepped into the hall, they were directly pushed back by a tyrannical force. At the same time, a message appeared in Shi Yang's mind. The central palace belongs to Emperor Zhongyuan. Without the Emperor's permission, no one is allowed to enter. Looking at the hall in front of him, he finally knew that he wanted his father's territory. From this, it could be seen. All the palaces were not randomly chosen. Each hall corresponded to a different deity position. Seeing this, Shi Yang's gaze swept across the few halls closest to the heavenly palace. According to his guess, that should be where the 5 great imperial emperors were. Those outside belonged to the 4 great war gods. As for the Zhou Tian constellation deity position, Shi Yang looked at the group of palaces at the outermost periphery. It should be there. All of a sudden, he felt something in his heart. He took out his imperial seal and sent his divine consciousness into it. All of a sudden, a strong connection was generated from the imperial seal. Then, through the connection, Shi Yang looked at one of the halls. Then, he stepped on yellow clouds and walked over. As expected. This time, there was no longer any obstruction. The other gods also discovered the secret in the hall. In the end, they each found their own hall. Not long after, a loud voice came from the heavenly palace. Stars in the sky, fall! Boom! From the 365 halls, a powerful force burst out and rushed towards the sky like a beam of light. Then, in the void outside the domain, the many stars that stayed outside the vast 1,000 worlds seemed to have been stimulated by some force. They all woke up from their silence and then shone brightly. Run! Those demons of the void who had attacked the vast 1,000 world and temporarily stayed on the stars were severely injured when the power of the stars erupted. The bright light shone down. All of the black shadows dissipated one after another. In less than a breath's time, all the demons of the void who were below the Demon King level on the stars died. Those demons of the void who had reached the Demon King level also suffered different degrees of injuries under the eruption of the power of the stars. The sudden change. It caused a great impact. Then, under the shocked gazes of all the demons of the void, a terrifying beam of light bombarded from the stars and landed directly on the heaven and earth barrier. Along the way, all the demons of the void who were touched by the beam of light melted and died. Quickly, report to the Demon King that the stars have changed. Seeing this, a demon king's face was filled with horror. Without thinking, he fled into the depths of the void. The stars had changed. And it was related to the vast thousand world. No one dared to hide such a thing. The power of the stars was extremely pure, but to the demons of the void, it was no different from a highly toxic substance. In the heaven and earth barrier, countless beams of light directly bombarded from the heaven and earth barrier. Then, after those beams of light entered the heaven and earth barrier, they landed in the palace of the deity position of the stars. In an instant, the entire heavenly court was nurtured in the starlight. Originally, the heavenly court already had the power of the sun and the moon. Now that the power of the stars had descended, the power here increased greatly. In the heavenly court, the moment the power of the stars descended, Qin Shujian felt as if all the pores on his body had been opened. He greedily breathed in the power. The power of the stars is still so strong! He could clearly feel it. When he was absorbing the power of the stars, his inner world could be illuminated by the power of the stars and was undergoing some kind of transformation. Now the inner world has many rules, but it is still far from a complete heaven and earth. Now that I am absorbing the power of the stars, there is a chance for the inner world to give birth to the stars. Qin Shujian thought in his heart. Being able to give birth to the stars was also a good thing for him. The birth of the stars. The corresponding rules would also be born. More importantly, with the illumination of the stars, the evolution of the inner world would be even faster. However, it was not easy to rely on absorbing the power of the stars to give birth to the stars in the inner world. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, it would take at least 10 years for it to be possible. 10 years is about enough. Qin Shujian estimated and had a rough idea in his heart. Moreover, the power of the stars in the heavenly court was much stronger than in the third era. The reason for this was, it was also because the power of the stars in this era had almost never been used, so when it was drawn down, it was so strong. At this moment, the power of the stars enveloped the entire heavenly court. In the hall, Xiang sat cross-legged, and there was a seal floating quietly in front of him. The light beam of the stars bombarded down and directly fell on the seal. And he had the deity position of the stars. At this moment, there was also a part of the power of the stars pouring into his body. What a powerful power of the stars! Xiang secretly gasped. He had always been unfamiliar with the power of the stars. Because the human clan of the eastern continent never relied on the power of the stars to cultivate, but only on the spirit qi of heaven and earth. It was the first time that Xiang had directly absorbed the power of the stars to cultivate like this. But also because of this, he finally understood how terrifying the power of the stars was. When the power of the stars bombarded down just now, Xiang found that his physical body, which had already transformed into an immortal body, had taken another step forward. Although it was only a small improvement, but that kind of improvement, it was enough to shock people. Xiang felt the extremely rich power of the stars around him, and there was a smile on his face. If I continue to cultivate here, my strength will definitely increase even faster. If my physical body is strong enough, then I might be able to rival a second or even a third level immortal in the realm of the first level immortal. Increasing strength, it was not necessary to increase one's realm. Just like Emperor Zhao and Xiao Chengfeng. They had just broken through to the true immortal realm and already had the strength of a third or fourth level immortal. The reason was, it was because of their strong foundation that they could have such powerful strength when they were first level immortals. If they could also have the strength of a third or fourth level immortal, then even if their realm was still first level immortal, no one would dare to underestimate them. In Xiang's opinion, the realm was not the only thing. Only strength. That was what was really useful. After he collected his thoughts, he focused his attention on the seal in front of him, then used his divine will to communicate with the seal and control the power of the stars to pour down on the 4 great continents. Boom, the sky shook. The sky, which was originally as bright as day, was now dyed with a faint blue color. Then, vast energy fell from the sky and converged into the 4 great continents. The moment the energy of the stars poured in, all of the living beings seemed to have sensed something as they looked up at the sky. Then, they discovered that their cultivation speed had increased a lot out of nowhere. Many cultivators who had reached a bottleneck directly broke through to the next level. 5th level celestial being! In the Qianyuan sacred ground, the Golden Rock King's face was a little stunned. Just now, a wave of pure power descended upon him, causing him to break through the bottleneck of his cultivation level, which he had already reached, to break through the original shackles. He broke through from the 4th level of the celestial being to the 5th level of the celestial being. It was a sudden breakthrough. The Golden Rock King was a little surprised. At this moment, he could clearly feel that there was still a mysterious force around him. Even if he did not actively absorb it, it would slowly penetrate into his body. In other words, even if he did not cultivate, he could slowly increase his strength. Even if the process was very slow, the improvement was real. This discovery, the Golden Rock King was a little shocked. Then he looked up at the sky. He could clearly feel that the source of the power was coming from there. Star power! In the territory of the star race, the current Star Emperor looked at the sky in shock as if he had seen something unbelievable. Ever since the previous Star Emperor died, in addition to the death of a large number of star race experts, the current Star Emperor's strength was only at the 9th level of the celestial being. After becoming the Star Emperor, he had been cultivating diligently and trying to improve his strength, hoping that one day he could bring the star race back to the peak. However, just now, the Star Emperor found that the star power that he had absorbed was no longer under his control. Then, even the weak power of the stars that roamed between heaven and earth instantly increased by more than a few times in an instant. The others did not know what this power was. But as the Star Race Emperor, how could he not know? But what the Star Emperor did not expect was, in addition to the star race, there were other experts in the world who could control the star power, and they were much stronger than the star race. An expert is controlling the star power and sprinkling it on the 4 great continents. Who is it? Why is he doing this? The Star Emperor's face was cloudy. The biggest trump card of the star race was the star power. Now that it was being controlled by someone else, he could not keep calm. Soon, the Star Emperor thought of the heavenly court. If there was anyone in the world who could control the star power and sprinkle it on the 4 great continents, it could only be the heavenly court. The 365 Zhou Tian constellation. Could it be that the deity position is used to draw the star power? The Star Emperor was not sure. But this was the only explanation for the situation in front of him. Thinking of this, he felt a little bit of pain in his heart. If the deity position of the Zhou Tian constellation really had such a method, his strength would be greatly improved if he could get the deity position. But now, there was no more chance. The Star Emperor felt that he might have missed a great opportunity. For this, even if he regretted it, there was nothing he could do. After all, he was only at the 9th level of the celestial being realm. Among the experts in the apotheosized realm, the weakest one was at the 10th level of the celestial being realm. A 9th level of the celestial being realm. It was impossible to obtain a deity position in the first place. Even if the star race joined the human race, the Emperor of Heaven would not open a back door like this. This was because the benefits involved in becoming a god were not as simple as just 1 or 2 races. Instead, it involved the entire myriad races. Then, the Star Emperor suppressed the thought in his heart. Although the star power was no longer exclusive to the star race, now that the star power in the world had become rich, it was also a great benefit for the star race. At this moment, bathed in the star power, he felt he was not far from breaking through the 10th level of the sky human realm. In the Qianyuan realm. In the Shao mansion. After becoming an immortal, Shao Chunfeng still lived here. He did not go to the heavenly court or other places. Earlier, when Qin Shujian summoned the Zhou Tian constellation, he got the news in advance. And now, the star power poured down. Although Xiao Chengfeng was shocked, he understood what had happened. All the stars in the sky, except for the sun and the moon, exist in the extraterritorial void. There has never been an expert who could draw the star power to bathe the entire 4 great continents. In this case, the deity position of the star is much more useful than I thought. The change now was also beyond Xiao Qingfeng's expectation. He realized the deity position of the star was much more powerful than he had expected. Just the point of drawing the star power to descend. It was enough to make others feel intimidated. Even the star race, who was born from the star power, could only draw the star power to themselves. They could not make the star power shine on the entire 4 great continents. Therefore, only the heavenly court was able to do this. As an expert from the ancient times, Xiao Chengfeng naturally knew how powerful the star power was. At that time, there were very few experts who could absorb the star power to cultivate. Most of them entered the extraterritorial void, broke the weak stars, and dug out the star sulfur. Of course, not just any star could shatter. Some powerful and ancient stars, even if a true immortal of the upper 3 grades appeared, they would not be damaged at all. That kind of existence, it was almost the same as the extraterritorial void. Xiao Chengfeng was not completely sure which star the star power that the heavenly court drew in came from. However, he had some guesses. In the void outside the realm, the 365 ancient stars are the most powerful, and they correspond to the deity positions of the constellations in the heavens. In that case, it is very likely that the power of the stars drawn by the heavenly court comes from the ancient stars. Not all the star power could be reflected in the great thousand world. The most likely one. It was those ancient stars. What a rich star power! The first demon emperor of the ancient times was also injured. He drew in the star power of the heavens and wanted to set up a big formation. But in the end, he did not succeed, which led to his defeat. Otherwise, there would only be the demon clan in the world now. Wu Ming sighed in his sea of consciousness. Many of his distant memories had been buried by him. Now when he saw the star power, they were rediscovered. Xiao Chengfeng frowned. You mean, the first demon emperor also tried to draw in the star power of the heavens? Of course. Then what is the big formation that you mentioned? Xiao Chengfeng asked. A big formation that could be valued by the first demon emperor was definitely not a simple one. However, he had never heard of the existence of such a powerful array formation in the world. Wu Ming said, I'm not sure. I'm not Zhu Bing of the demon clan, so I don't know much about it. It was just a coincidence that I knew about the existence of the big formation. After that, Wu Ming added, the race that I originally existed in was actually a member of the demon clan. At that time, the first demon emperor was powerful and subdued my race. As for the matter of the formation, I also heard about it from the experts of that race. His race. It had been destroyed in ancient times. So many things had disappeared in the dust of history. Only a Zhu Bing like Wu Ming, who was not afraid of the erosion of time, could preserve some things. Xiao Chengfeng was deep in thought. Not long after, he dispelled the thoughts in his mind. The ancient times were too far away from the present, and there was the ancient times in between. Many things that disappeared were difficult to find again. Then, Xiao Chengfeng calmed his mind and absorbed the star power around him to cultivate. He walked the path of physical sanctification. Now that he was absorbing the star power to cultivate, he could use this opportunity to strengthen his physical body. It could be said that, when the star power fell into the 4 continents, the cultivators who walked the path of physical sanctification were the ones who benefited the most. If it was possible, Xiao Chengfeng was more willing to go to the void outside the domain and personally shatter the stars, and dig out the star sulfur inside to cultivate some powerful star sulfur slurry. It would be very useful even for perfected immortals. But now outside the great wide world, the demons of the void had not disappeared. Going out rashly was no different from courting death. While Xiao Chengfeng was taking the opportunity to cultivate, in the Qianyuan realm, the other cultivators were also immersed in cultivation. Rumble! Test Jian Feng sat cross-legged, and a thunderous sound came from his body. Little by little, impurities were expelled from his body. The current him, he had completely changed to cultivate the purple heaven divine thunder scripture. After breaking through to the diviner realm, this supreme technique was mainly to absorb the power of heaven and earth to temper one's body until the body was strong enough to merge the soul and body. Then, one could start to go through the tribulation. Now, Test Jian Feng was in the stage of tempering his body. After the star power scattered, he directly broke through the original limit and reached the 7th level of the divine martial realm. The 7th level of the divine martial realm. He had officially entered the late stage of the divine martial realm. However, Test Jian Feng did not stop at all. He continued to absorb the star power and move toward a higher level. It could be said that, the moment the star power was drawn down, in the 4 continents, there were countless cultivators who broke through the original bottleneck. Of course, most of the cultivators who broke through were below the diviner realm. Only a small number of diviner realm cultivators broke through a small realm under the sudden impact of the star power. As time went by, the star power in the great wide world became denser. Any cultivator who could absorb the star power to cultivate would have their strength increase at an extremely fast speed. The heavenly palace, Qin Shujian opened his eyes. He had already sensed the changes in the 4 continents. The power of the stars in this era is a lot stronger than I thought. Maybe I should teach them how to achieve the sacred realm with the flesh. Qin Shujian just had this thought in his mind, but then he dismissed it. The 4 continents, now, there were not only the native creatures, but also the players. If the physical sanctification technique was obtained by the players, it would be quite troublesome. Qin Shujian frowned slightly. In the end, he shook his head. The third era's technique cannot be obtained by the players. In this case, let's focus on the current traditional route. As for other things, let's talk about it later. After putting this matter aside, Qin Shujian looked at the position above the heavenly palace. Although there was nothing there, it could not block his sight. He saw through it. Qin Shujian had already seen the huge sun. The 365 stars in the heavens are still not the most complete stage. If I can draw down the power of the sun and the moon, then the star power will become stronger. It's just that drawing the power of the sun and the moon is not easy. Until now, the investiture of the gods has no way to condense the deity positions of the sun and the moon. To condense the deity positions of the sun and the moon. It was not an easy thing to do. Because the stars in the heavens had no master, but the sun and the moon actually had masters. The 2 half-step Tao fruits in the Dead Sea domain and Heavenly Abyss were equivalent to the masters of the sun and the moon. Only with the power of the 2 as a medium. Only then could the deity positions of the sun and the moon be condensed. However, it was very difficult to snatch food from the half-step Tao fruit. Qin Shujian secretly estimated his strength. Now, with the perfection of his inner world and his other methods, at most, he could only fight against a level 6 immortal. If he encountered a level 3 true immortal, he would still have to turn around and run. As for the half-step Tao fruit, that was no different from courting death. Therefore, Qin Shujian only thought about it and did not act rashly. Immediately after, he tore the void in front of him and then walked in. The next second, Qin Shujian appeared in the mother stream of rules. The inner world now had many rules, but compared to the complete world's rules, it was still a drop in the ocean. If he wanted to increase his strength, he could only comprehend more rules and perfect the rules of his inner world. Walking in the mother stream of rules. Occasionally, waves would hit him. Qin Shujian's footsteps did not stop. Any wave that came crashing over was easily extinguished by him. It was only when there were strong waves. He did not fight head-on and chose to retreat. In the mother stream of rules, the number of rules that existed was immeasurable. Qin Shujian did not need to choose at all. He directly found a rule that was either big nor small. Then, he took out the Godslayer and was about to forcefully open the door. The long river of rules was torn apart. He flashed into it. In the heavenly palace. Space was torn apart again. Qin Shujian fell out from inside. Now, he was covered in blood and his aura was erratic. It was obvious that he had suffered a lot in the long river of rules. To this, Qin Shujian's expression did not change. If the rules were so easy to comprehend, how could it stop so many people? After a simple recovery, he tore the void again and entered the mother stream of rules. In the outer realm, the ancient stars moved strangely, and a vast energy bombarded the heaven and earth barrier, causing many void demons to die. This matter. It also alarmed the emperors of the various clans. Endless black shadows descended and finally turned into a middle-aged man. Yelvis looked at the stars in front of him with a look of bewilderment in his eyes. Since the birth of the stars, there has never been any strange phenomenon, and these ancient stars are even more so. Now that the power of the stars has suddenly erupted, could it be that the great wide world has used some method? He was not sure. Yelvis did not get too close to the light beam in front of him. The power of the stars was a terrifying poison to other void demons, and it was also a huge threat to demon emperor-level powerhouses. That surging energy. Yelvis suspected that even if the demon emperor encountered it, he would not dare to touch it easily. The movement of the stars is not a small matter. If it is really done by some powerhouses of the great wide world, it might be disadvantageous to the Void Demon clan. Standing in the same place, Yelvis's expression changed. The best way now was to report this matter to the Demon Emperor. However, the Demon Emperor had just fallen asleep. If he was disturbed again, it might cause the other party to be angry. Moreover, what happened last time? It had already made the Demon Emperor unhappy. Therefore, Yelvis did not want to hit the muzzle of the gun. He hesitated again and again. He suddenly attacked, and the power of darkness bombarded the light beam, trying to stop it from being projected to the great wide world. However, when the power of darkness bombarded the light beam, it was forcibly dissolved by the light beam. Not only that, there was even star energy that spread along with the power of darkness, trying to backfire on the person who attacked. Seeing this, Yelvis's expression changed. He did not hesitate. He immediately attacked and cut off the connection between himself and the power of darkness. Then, he retreated for a distance to avoid the possibility of being backfired. Star energy! There was deep fear in Yelvis's eyes. In that confrontation just now, he knew that he was no match for those ancient star energies. If there was life on an ancient star, it would be a miracle. Then every one of them. They were at least comparable to the Demon Emperor. Therefore, even if those stars did not have life and could only rely on some method to vent their power, the power of the venting was not something that other powerhouses could contend with. In the end, Yelvis disappeared from where he was. The movement of the ancient stars could be a big or small matter. Since he could not stop it himself, he had to report it to the Demon Emperor. In the depths of the void outside the realm, Yelvis appeared there, looked at the darkness in front of him, and bowed respectfully. The movement of the ancient stars, I hope the Demon Emperor knows about it. P.S. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 721. The Black Shadow Shook. 2 rays of light extended from the darkness and landed on Yerwais. Suddenly, the Demon Emperor's body trembled involuntarily. The light disappeared. The black shadow condensed together, and then turned into a human figure. Lord Demon Emperor! Yervis bowed his head. Amoshiala looked indifferent, looked at him, and said calmly, "What's going on with the ancient stars? Not long ago, in those ancient stars, there was a power that had been dormant for a long time erupting and projected to the vast 1,000 domains. Along the way, it also caused a lot of damage to our Void Evil Demon clan." Yervis did not dare to hide anything and said truthfully. Hearing this, Amoshiala's expression did not change, and his body suddenly disappeared into the distance. After he left, only then did Yervis's tense body suddenly relax. In front of Mo Xiaoluo, he felt a great pressure. Demon Emperor! Yervis's eyes flickered, and his fists were unconsciously clenched. He was close to the Demon Emperor. Only one step away. But even if it was only one step away, it was actually a world of difference. As early as hundreds of thousands of years ago, Yervis was already a top Demon Emperor, and now hundreds of thousands of years had passed. There was no way to break through the threshold of that level. If he could break through to the Demon Emperor realm, then even if his strength was not as good as Mo Xiaoluo's, he would not be like an ant that could be killed at will. On the other side, Mo Xiaoluo had already appeared in front of a star. The star that used to be lonely was now blooming with bright light. The Void Evil Demon Clan. What they hated the most was this bright light. Because they were born in the void of the extraterritorial domain, and there was no light in the void of the extraterritorial domain. What kind of method did the vast thousand domains use to draw out the power contained in the stars? Mo Xiaoluo's expression changed slightly. He was not very sure. After all, even the Demon Emperor who had existed for countless years did not know about it. Like why the void of the extraterritorial domain existed. Or why the stars were born. Mo Xiaoluo did not know. What kind of method was it that could draw out the power contained within the withered stars? The power of the stars. It was a deadly poison to the fiendish void demons. However, to the beings of the great wide world, it was a supreme cultivation treasure. As early as the ancient times, some true immortals came out from the great thousand worlds, shattered those weak stars, and dug out the star sulfur slurry. However, ever since the ancient heavenly court was destroyed, the overall strength of the great thousand worlds had been greatly reduced. No one dared to openly enter the outer space to destroy the stars and seize the star sulfur lava anymore. Suddenly, Mo Xiaoluo sent a palm strike towards the star seal. A terrifying power spread out and enveloped the entire star. Destroy! Mo Xiaoluo spat out a word. The darkness engulfed the star, as if wanting to devour it completely. Buzz, the light beam that was originally bombarding the great wide world, was directly blocked by the darkness. In the heavenly court, the power of the stars that had fallen on the palace suddenly disappeared. Xiang opened his eyes and a look of doubt flashed across his face. Strange, why did the power of the stars disappear? He could feel it. The power of the other stars was still projected into the heavenly court. Only the star that he controlled seemed to be isolated by something, and there was no longer a trace of power projected over. There was one star missing. As a result, a flaw appeared in the number of 365 cycles. The Thousand-Eye Emperor also woke up from his cultivation. Just now, he sensed that there was a flaw in the power of the stars, which caused the power of the stars in the heavenly court to weaken by a lot. However, very soon, the Thousand-Eye Emperor calmed his mind again and continued to guide the power of the stars to descend. There was definitely a problem. However, with his current strength, he did not have the right to interfere in this matter. Since there was a flaw in the power of the stars, it was naturally the Emperor of Heaven's turn to take action. What could he, a true immortal who had just broken through, do? At this moment, under the Thousand-Eye Emperor's intentional control, the power of the stars that were pouring towards the four continents was tilted towards the western continent. To be precise, it was tilted towards the Thousand-Eye clan of the western continent. Although Qin Shijian's order was to let the power of the stars shine on the four continents, there was no rule that it had to be poured equally. Therefore, the Thousand-Eye Emperor had some selfish motives and focused on pouring the power of the stars into the Thousand-Eye clan. Actually, he also realized that the other experts were more or less doing the same. After all, as long as they were living beings, they would have selfish motives. It was normal to seek some benefits for one's own clan, as long as it was not too overboard. In the Thousand-Eye Emperor's opinion, Qin Shijian was just turning a blind eye. An expert took action and isolated the power of the stars. In the heavenly palace, Qin Shijian had just retreated from the mother stream and was now recuperating from his injuries. when the power of the stars was weakening. He also sensed that something was wrong. He raised his head and looked towards the sky. There were originally 365 beams of light, but now there were only 364 beams. One of them seemed to have been intercepted by something and had completely disappeared. Qin Shujian frowned. The power of the stars is extremely strong. Ordinary people can't intercept it. Moreover, the power of the stars here hasn't been used at all. After accumulating for countless years, its power has reached a terrifying level. To be able to block the power of the stars in such a situation, one has to be at least a true immortal of the upper 3 levels. No, it's not just an ordinary true immortal of the upper 3 levels. Qin Shujian's mind was spinning. An upper 3 levels true immortal. In the void outside, it was equivalent to a demon emperor. Now, only the evil demon clan of the void could possibly stop the power of the stars from descending. However, if you think you can stop the stars with this, I can only say that you're too naive. Qin Shujian's expression was slightly cold. Then, he grabbed the investiture of the gods on the table and threw it out into the air. The list broke through the sky. It instantly appeared in the sky above the heavenly court. At this moment the list, which was about 10 feet long, had already covered the entire heavenly court. All living beings of the Zhou Tian constellation, take out the imperial seal and integrate it into the investiture of the gods. Qin Shujian shouted loudly. Hearing this, the gods immediately flew the imperial seal toward the investiture of the gods in the sky. After integrating it into the imperial seal, the investiture of the gods suddenly emitted a terrifying fluctuation. Qin Shujian took a step forward and appeared in the heavenly palace. He looked at the investiture of the gods in front of him, and reached out his hand to gently stroke forward. In an instant, the investiture of the gods seemed to show a celestial map. The celestial map had just appeared. It bathed the entire heavenly court in starlight, and the original brilliance of the sun was blocked. Zhou Tian constellation formation, rise. Qin Shujian pressed out his palm, and the entire celestial map suddenly moved. Boom! In the void outside the realm. The 364 ancient stars emitted an even brighter light. The ancient star that was originally sealed by darkness also emitted a powerful force at this moment, completely breaking through Mo Xiaoluo's seal. The moment the seal broke through, the 365 ancient stars suddenly linked together, and a large formation was formed in an instant. What's going on? Mo Xiaoluo was completely shocked by the change in front of him. Just now, the stars that had been suppressed by him suddenly erupted with a powerful force and directly broke through his seal. And, before he could react, it had already linked up with the other stars. The formation of the large formation. Mo Xiaoluo had already felt that something was wrong around him. Years of experience made him understand what to do at this moment. He saw his body directly disappear. The next second, Mo Xiaoluo's body reappeared in the same place. As if the disappearance just now was just an illusion, and it had never happened at all. Impossible. Mo Xiaoluo's face could no longer remain calm. His divine sense frantically spread out, trying to find out what had happened. But, after the divine sense expanded to a certain extent, Mo Xiaoluo found that his divine sense was blocked. The void in front of him. It was still the same void. But under the encirclement of the power of the stars, the outer void had unknowingly been divided into two. If one looked down from above, one could see that the 365 ancient stars had turned into nodes, and finally the large formation was directly linked up, with the great wide world as the center. The range of hundreds of millions of miles was isolated. Such a change. The other evil void demons in the formation also finally noticed the abnormality. What's going on? I can't get out. Why can't I get out? Looks of panic appeared on the faces of the fiendish void demons. There were powerful demons of the void who wanted to escape into the void, but it didn't take long before they returned to the distance. The originally boundless outer void. At this moment, it seemed to have completely shrunk. The great wide world. The heavenly court. In the investiture of the gods, the star chart was presented. There were a total of 365 nodes on it, and each node was perfectly linked together, finally forming a powerful formation. At this moment, everyone in the heavenly court was looking up at the investiture of the gods. They were curious. What was the purpose of Qin Shujian bringing out the investiture of the gods and letting the gods put the seals in it? The star chart in front of them looked very mysterious. But with their eyesight, they couldn't see anything at all. At this moment, Qin Shujian disappeared on the spot, and when he reappeared, he was already on the investiture of the gods. Under his feet, the investiture of the gods covered the heavenly court. The star chart that indicated the Zhou-Tian stars had already been presented there. Qin Shujian had a faint smile on his face. Speaking of which, since I obtained the Zhou-Tian stars formation in the first era, I don't know how many years have passed since the last time I used it. The strength of the constellation gods isn't strong, and the seals condensed are much worse than those of the third era. But in any case, I have gathered the number of Zhou-Tian stars, and I can barely set up this formation. The Zhou-Tian stars formation. That was the strongest formation in the first era. And this strongest formation also played a lot of roles in the heavenly court in the third era. In Qin Shujian's memory, there were very few formations that could be compared to the Zhou-Tian stars formation. More importantly, the other formations that could be compared to the Zhou-Tian stars formation had very high requirements for setting up. It was almost decided at birth and couldn't be changed after birth. In comparison, the Zhou-Tian stars formation was more approachable. As the first battle between the heavenly court and the demons of the void, it's a good idea to use the Zhou-Tian stars formation to start the battle. Let me see if the demon emperor of the nefarious demon clan can contend against the massive heavenly cycle star formation. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent. With a wave of his hand, he completely activated the formation. In the outer realm, starlight flickered. The 365 ancient stars vibrated in unison. Then, a vast and profound power spread out and pervaded the array. The moment the formation was activated, the boundless void began to crack open. Time shattered. Space obliterated. The entire formation was like a huge millstone, completely obliterating everything in the formation. Whether it was the demon lord or not, or the demon king. The moment the great array was activated, it did not have any power to resist. It was quietly destroyed, and there was not a trace of its existence left. Boom! A terrifying dark power erupted. Amo Xiaolua punched, vowing to destroy the formation. However, the dark power that resisted the terrifying dark power. In front of the Zhou-Tian stars formation, it didn't have the slightest effect. The stars swayed and trembled again. The originally gorgeous starlight seemed to be the source of destruction at this moment. A crazy warning rose in Amo Xiaolua's heart. Then, all the dark power that spread out seemed to be eroded by destruction, disintegrating bit by bit. That kind of disappearance. It was a true and complete disappearance. The moment the dark power disappeared, Amo Xiaolua felt his power gradually weakening. I don't believe that such a powerful formation exists. The Demon King's face was crazy. Since he existed for countless years, he didn't believe that there was such a powerful formation. Because he was already a Demon King. And a top Demon King. Unless it involved the existence of the same demon realm, otherwise, who could be his opponent? Even the so-called strongest Demon King Baido. Amo Xiaolua was confident that it was impossible to force him into such a situation. The void was still collapsing. He could clearly feel that the destructive power was approaching him step by step. It was as if there were countless big hands squeezing him from all directions. For this, Amo Xiaolua took a step forward, and the shocking dark power completely erupted. Then, he threw a punch forward. This punch. It was the most powerful punch that Amo Xiaolua had ever thrown after breaking through to the top Demon King. Compared to the last time in the long river of time, When he fought with Hao Tsung 1,000,000 years ago, the strength he displayed was slightly better. Boom! The dark power was like a torrent of rivers and seas, bombarding the destruction in front. Then, the formation shook wildly. The energy sealed in the ancient stars was completely stimulated. Boom! The dark torrent shattered. Emo Shallow was sent flying by the destructive power, and the Demon King's powerful body was also full of cracks. The original strong aura. It was completely dispirited. In the investiture of the gods, the star chart was shaking non-stop. Qin Shujian could see the scene of the outside void through the star chart. Seeing Emo Shallow, who was trying to break through Zhou Tian's star array, he could only sneer in his heart. Destroy! Qin Shujian's palm moved in the star chart. The illusory star chart, like someone touching the water surface, rippled with faint ripples. In an instant, in the outer void, a shocking massacre broke out. At that moment, Emo Shallow's heart trembled. Save me! He no longer cared about his dignity as a demon king and directly sent out a distress signal. The moment the signal was sent out, several demon emperors who were in deep slumber immediately woke up. In the depths of the darkness, Bach woke up from his deep sleep, and two beams of light pierced through the outer void and directly saw the existence of Zhou Tian's star array. What kind of formation is this, that even Emo Shallow had to call for help? There was a dignified look on his face. Although Bach knew that Emo Shallow's strength was actually a little worse than his. But no matter how bad it was, the other party was also a top demon king. A formation that he had never seen before made a top demon king ask for help. In this regard, Bach's mind was also cautious. Without any hesitation, he directly made a move across the void, and a big dark handprint blasted towards Zhou Tian's star array. A terrifying power erupted. This caused the entire formation to tremble incessantly. At the same time, the other two demon kings also made a move at the same time. The three demon kings made a move, attacking Zhou Tian's star array across the void, making the formation suddenly unstable. Emo Shallow, who was inside. The pressure also suddenly reduced a lot. The pressure was reduced. Emo Shallow also immediately found the right opportunity and began to counterattack Zhou Tian's star array. Half an hour passed. The heavenly cycle of stars shattered with a loud bang. The moment the formation shattered, it also revealed Emo Shallow's broken body. Heavenly Court. The original star chart suddenly cracked, and the constellation seal that was integrated into the investiture of the gods also directly separated and fell back into the hands of the gods. But compared to before, now the seal was very dim, and it was full of cracks, as if it would break at any time. Qin Shujian saw this. He directly put away the investiture of the gods and returned to the heavenly palace. At the same time, a grand voice came from the heavenly palace. Gods, continue to draw the power of the stars. Yes. The gods bowed and accepted the order. After returning to his palace, Xiang did not hesitate for too long and immediately followed the original method to draw the power of the stars. As expected, the power of the stars that had disappeared appeared again at this moment. When the light fell on the seal, the cracks on the seal were also repaired bit by bit. At the same time, the power of the stars that had been gradually dissipating in the four continents had become rich again. Just now, could it be that a void demon made a move and isolated the starlight? Inside the palace, Xiang did not enter the state of cultivation, but recalled what had just happened. Without a doubt, there was a problem with the power of the stars. There must be an expert intervening. As for Qin Shujian's appearance, he must have been fighting with the demons of the void from afar, although he did not know the outcome. But now that the power of the stars could be drawn again, there should not be a big problem. Inside the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian's face did not look too good. Damn it, I did not expect other demon emperors to come to the rescue so soon. Otherwise, today I would have killed the demon emperor and used it as a blood sacrifice for the Zhou Tian constellation formation. For this, Qin Shujian really felt that it was a pity. Just a little bit more. The demon emperor that was trapped in the formation was about to be killed by him. Although he did not know Mo Xiaoluo, he knew the other party's identity. However, the deity position of the Zhou Tian constellation had just been set up, and the strength of the gods was still too weak. Among the 365 deity positions, only about 1/3 of them were true immortals, and the remaining 2/3 were cultivators below the true immortal realm. Such strength. It could not be said to be weak, but it was definitely not very strong. If all the constellation deity holders were in the true immortal realm when the formation was first set up, Mo Xiaoluo would definitely have no chance of survival. Even if other demon emperors intervened, it would be the same. But from the current situation, it would be difficult to let the gods break through to the true immortal realm. In the next few years, there was no need to think about it for the time being. Qin Shujian shook his head and sighed. In the third era, with the middle 3 true immortals as the foundation, the Zhou Tian constellation formation set up with the middle 3 true immortals was in existence that could even match Dao fruit experts. If the people of the first era knew that the Zhou Tian constellation formation setup could not even kill a true immortal of the upper 3 true immortals, it would really be a joke. There was nothing they could do if they were weak. But it was also true that it was embarrassing. In the sea of consciousness, God Slayer remained silent. He realized that he did not seem to have the qualifications to interrupt what Qin Shujian said. What first era, third era? What Zhou Tian constellation formation? The god-slaying saber had never heard of this before. After Qin Shujian awakened his innate wisdom, he increasingly felt that his knowledge was shallow, and his original sense of superiority had completely disappeared. However, the god-slaying saber also silently remembered Qin Shujian's words. It did not matter if he did not have a sense of superiority now. When there was a chance to change the host in the future, he could still brag about this thing. He comforted himself in his heart. God Slayer suddenly felt much better. Subsequently, he displayed the spirit of not being ashamed to ask questions and asked, "Dare I ask, Emperor of Heaven, what is the Zhou Tian constellation formation?" The Zhou Tian constellation formation is a powerful formation that existed in the first era. At its peak, it was set up using the Zhou Tian constellation as the foundation and supplemented by 365 true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals. Once the formation is formed, even a Dao fruit expert can only quietly fall. However, it is not easy to gather 365 true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals, but if you can gather 365 true immortals of the middle 3 true immortals, you can match a Dao fruit expert. But if you want to kill them, you won't be able to do it, Qin Shujian explained. 365 true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals could kill a Dao fruit expert. 365 true immortals of the middle 3 true immortals could match a Dao fruit expert. If God Slayer were to transform into his human form now, he would definitely gasp. The power of the Zhou Tian constellation formation was more terrifying than he had imagined. However, the requirements to set up the formation were also extraordinarily high. Not to mention gathering all the true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals. Even gathering all the true immortals of the middle 3 true immortals was not an easy task. Back in the ancient heavenly court, 365 true immortals, most of them were of the lower 3 true immortals. There were only 20 or 30 true immortals of the middle 3 true immortals. As for true immortals of the upper 3 true immortals, they were even rarer. He suppressed the shock in his heart. God Slayer continued, "The Emperor of Heaven has always talked about epics. I'd like to ask, what exactly is an epic?" The name epic. He had only heard of it from Qin Shujian. Apart from him, he had never heard of it from a second person. According to Godslayer's own understanding, epics should be similar to the primordial age and other eras. But as far as he knew, the primordial age was the beginning of the primordial age, then the primordial age, and finally the present. There were 3 epics. There was no such thing as the first epic, nor was there such a thing as the third epoch. Qin Shujian said. The beginning and end of any universe is equivalent to an epoch. When you have the chance to break through to a higher level in the future, you'll naturally understand. He didn't have any intention of saying more about this. The existence of epochs. Without breaking through to the Tao fruit level, it was very difficult to understand. In his thoughts, God's Slayer had completely fallen into a daze. The beginning and end of a universe was equivalent to an epoch. He had only just realized. It turned out that the so-called epoch was completely beyond the scope of his own understanding. In Godslayer's memories, he had never thought that the universe would one day come to an end. Nor did he expect, long before the primordial age appeared, several epochs had already ended. And Qin Shujian wasn't the reincarnation of a powerhouse of this epoch, but the reincarnation of a powerhouse of the third epoch. Too much information appeared at once. God's Slayer needed time to digest it. Qin Shujian didn't disturb him. Instead, he calmed his mind and continued to cultivate in the mother stream. What he had to do now was to improve his strength as much as possible. Other means were, after all, just external objects. If he had enough strength just now, when the Demon Emperor intercepted the star power, he would have directly gone out and beaten the Demon Emperor up. It wasn't like what happened just now. He only dared to set up Zhou Tian's great star formation in the heavenly court through the power of the investiture of the gods and the constellation god position. In the end, he didn't kill the Demon Emperor and let the other party escape. In the void outside the realm. When Zhou Tian's great star formation was broken, Mo Xiaoluo had already evacuated the range of the stars. That formation just now, it had already made him feel like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Ever since he broke through to the top Demon Emperor, it was the first time Mo Xiaoluo felt the aura of death. At this moment, after hundreds of millions of miles away, his heart was still a little unsettled. In front of Mo Xiaoluo, Ba Duo and the other Demon Emperors had also appeared. Mo Xiaoluo, what happened? Boyle's face was solemn. It was also his first time. Seeing Mo Xiaoluo in such a sorry state, even if the other party's injuries had recovered from the surface, it was still noticeable that he was weak. Hearing this, Mo Xiaoluo's face was ugly. He shook his head and said, "There are strong people in the great wide world who are drawing the power of the stars. I had just tried to stop them when I encountered a counterattack. Using an ancient star to set up a great formation, even this emperor almost died there. The power of that formation is terrifying, very terrifying." Mo Xiaoluo had no way to describe the Zhou Tian's great star formation. So, he could only use the word terrifying to describe it. When the other Demon Emperors saw this, their faces became even more solemn. If Mo Xiaoluo could repeatedly describe how terrifying it was, then it was really terrifying. And, if they hadn't acted just now, Mo Xiaoluo might have really fallen in the great formation. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have opened his mouth to ask for help. Ba Duo's brows were tightly knitted, there was a look of bewilderment on his face. In the great wide world, I have never heard of such a terrifying formation. Even if it's a top formation saint, the formation setup can't kill a top Demon Emperor. Not to mention, it's drawing the power of the stars to set up a formation. Ba Duo finished speaking. His face became more and more solemn. The more unknown something was, the more it was important. This was especially so for a formation that even peak Demon Emperors were helpless against. That made him even more fearful. Although Ba Duo was confident that his strength was much stronger than Mo Xiaoluo. But looking at the other party's current state, he wasn't sure if he would be able to break out of the formation if he went deep into it. Then, Ba Duo's gaze fell in the direction of the great, wide world. There was still the power of the stars there, but now no void demon dared to approach. Because when the Zhou Tian's great star formation was activated, all of the void demons that had besieged the great thousand domains had been wiped out. It could be said that, when the formation was activated, at least hundreds of millions of void demons had fallen. Among them, There was no lack of demon masters above the 7th level of the celestial being realm and demon kings who were already at the true immortal realm, in front of the Zhou Tian's great star formation. Unless it was an expert who could contend with it, otherwise any existence would be wiped out. Ba Duo said, "There are many stars in the outer realm, but those 365 stars have always existed there since the outer realm was born. Over the endless years, although the ancient stars have not given birth to intelligence, they have accumulated terrifying power. To be able to attract such star power, something must have happened in the great wide world that we don't know about." Ba Duo thought of the time turbulence. If he guessed correctly, the current time node just happened to appear in the time turbulence. As a result, it was impossible to enter the long river of time and peek into the past and future. If one was not careful, one might even be trapped in it. Boyle said in a deep voice. "First, Barkle fell, and now the great wide world is changing more and more. If we delay any longer, the situation from 1,000,000 years ago might happen again. 1,000,000 years ago, the Heavenly Court attacked the Void Demon Clan. In that battle, the Void Demon Clan suffered heavy losses. If it wasn't for the fact that the Heavenly Court didn't want to lose too much, and that the Outer Realm was too big, the Void Demon Clan, perhaps they would have been completely destroyed 1,000,000 years ago." The changes in the great wide world made Boyle feel a great threat. "Even if we don't want to delay, what can we do?" Yizwa shook his head. "There's no chance of breaking the barrier now. With our current strength, there's no way we can force our way in. No matter how unwilling we are now, we can only wait for the right opportunity." Boyle was worried. Yizwa also understood. However, with the barrier, the great wide world was like an unbreakable tortoise shell. Even someone as strong as the Demon Emperor could only look on helplessly. To break the barrier of the great wide world, we can only find the weak points. Continue to let the Void Demon Clan attack the barrier and find a way to attack the weak points. As for the changes in the stars, don't worry too much about it for now." Ba Duo immediately made a decision. They still had to attack the barrier. If they didn't attack, how could they find the loopholes in the great wide world? As for the 365 ancient stars, he didn't want to provoke them for the time being. He didn't see how Mo Xiaoloa had caused so much trouble just by touching them, when there was no way to completely destroy the ancient stars. Ba Duo didn't want to complicate matters. As for the possible dangers of attacking the barrier of heaven and earth, he did not consider them at all. There weren't many void demons. They had a large population. It didn't matter if hundreds of millions of void demons died. Compared to the entire Void Demon Clan, it was just a drop in the ocean. Not to mention hundreds of millions of void demons. Even if it was 10 times more. To the nefarious fiend clan of the Void, it wasn't enough to hurt them. On the contrary, if they found the loopholes in the barrier, it would really affect the entire Void Demon Clan. Mo Xiaoloa nodded slightly. "That's the only thing we can do now." Seeing this, the other 2 demon emperors didn't object. Soon, the 4 demon emperors all spread the order. Then, the 4 demon emperors returned to their deep sleep. From beginning to end, they didn't get close to the great, wide world. At the same time, all the demon emperors in charge of the clans received the news immediately. "The demon emperor has ordered us to continue to send our clansmen to attack the barrier." Yelvis came out of his closed state and opened his eyes, revealing the darkness inside. "There's no problem attacking the barrier. Apart from that, did the Demon Emperor say anything else?" Troy asked. Yelvis shook his head and said in a heavy voice, "The Demon Emperor didn't send any extra messages. He just told us not to stop attacking the barrier. Let's leave this matter to the other clansmen. That's the only way." Yelvis nodded. He knew that the other 2 demon emperors had the same idea as him. Many of the hundreds of millions of void demons that died were experts of the Mo Xiaoloa clan. In the end, even Mo Xiaoloa himself was trapped in the formation. It wasn't until the other demon emperors took action that he was rescued from the formation. It could be seen. Attacking the great wide world now was already full of risks. Once that array was activated again, any powerhouse below the Demon Emperor level would only have the possibility of dying. Even the Demon Emperor. There was absolutely no way to escape. No one cared about their lives. It was even more so for the Demon Emperor. After tens of millions of years, he had painstakingly cultivated to his current realm. If he died in the formation, it would really be a failure. Therefore, Yelvis and the other demon emperors were unwilling to take the risk easily. In any case, attacking the barrier was to find the weakness of the great wide world. Such a thing, there was no need for the demon emperor to take action personally. It was enough for the other void demons to complete it. All of a sudden, a large number of void demons, driven by the absolute order, unwillingly headed toward the barrier. P.S. Support the original version, Chidian Chinese Network, app, Chidian Reading S. I'm really decent. Seeking monthly votes. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.